Chapter 3600. Back then, if this old man was willing to announce in the 3 states that he wanted to take in a personal disciple, who knew how many people would break their heads and cry, begging to hug his thigh. He didn't expect to meet this little girl today, but he was defeated again and again. Could it be that this old man had to cry and beg her to accept his big gift? The old man's expression became slightly serious, and he coughed. "You're a child of Mu Tsang's bloodline." He didn't expect Mu Tsang, that serious child, to be able to teach such a cunning fox and fiery little girl. It was a bit rare. "My name is Arbor." Arbor coldly interrupted the old man and said indifferently, "What?" The old man was just a wisp of soul, so of course, he couldn't understand so many things. When he heard Lord Jojo's surname, he was stunned and couldn't help but ask, "You're not a child of my Mu family?" "Impossible." He immediately denied it himself. "This old man can feel the pure power of the Mu family's bloodline in you. You must be from the direct line of Mu Tsang's bloodline." And this child's bloodline power was mixed with a strong water spirit power. You should be the little girl born from the marriage between my family and the Long family. Your mother should be from the Sea Dragon clan of Forgetfulness River. How can your surname be Xiao? You're a child of my Mu family." The old man rolled his eyes in annoyance and interrupted Arbor's words. He continued to talk to himself. "I don't care. You're a child of my Mu family. Your great-grandfather's good grandchild. Don't try to deny it. It's no use even if you don't admit it. We have the bloodline talisman. We can make you show your true form in minutes." Arbor rolled her eyes. Show her true form? Did he think she was a snake demon? Xiao Mu grumpily threw the old man a cold glance before squatting down and using her hand to touch the small stream in front of her. TSK, the water was cool and clear. It really felt like a real stream and not a scene created by spirit power. "Child." The old man simply pulled out a small stool from his inner world and sat beside Arbor. He said earnestly, "Let me tell you, I don't have any requirements for you. I don't want you to do anything or do anything. These, and those, the things in Chaoyang restaurant, I'll give them all to you. In the past, great-grandfather excavated many grotto heavens and immortal abodes in the 3 prefectures. They were treasured lands of the divine realm. As long as you get close to that area, the bracelet will sense it and lead you to it. Gold, silver, and treasures are nothing. Talismans and medicinal pills are just appetizers. The most important thing is that my great-grandfather had once excavated a holy stone vein." The old man said complacently and happily, "But you don't have to worry. I've sealed the holy vein with 18 layers of talisman formations. Ha ha! Apart from the 2 of us, no one else can enter." Arbor glanced at him. "You're so rich, and you've excavated so many things. You even have the existence of a holy vein. Why don't you use it to support your family?" The old man blew his beard and glared. This bunch of unworthy bastards. They only know how to think about this old man's ancestral property. They don't work hard and don't learn well. They only want to live off their elders. No. Your great-grandfather's good grandchild. I'll leave all my things to you. I won't give them a single cent." The old man waved his hand and chuckled as he dragged the stool to Arbor's side. Chapter 3601. Good grandson, you can tell great-grandpa about your grandmaster grandmother now, right? Back then, I had a long talk with this elderly lady for 3 days and nights. We discussed the sword, the Tao, and the great Tao of cultivation. That old woman was actually very perceptive. She was just hilarious and refused to return to the divine province no matter what. As he spoke, the old man sighed with a distressed expression. "That's right. How is that old woman now?" Arbor turned his small face and gazed deeply at him. "Many years ago, the 6 prefectures led people to encircle and annihilate the Holy Water sect. My grandmaster self-detonated and her soul scattered in order to protect the many senior sisters as they evacuated." The old man started wailing. Although Arbor really wanted to mock this old man, he couldn't laugh in the end. He only said aloofly, "I've already avenged the 6 prefectures. None of the people who encircled and annihilated my holy water sect had a good ending. They didn't even have the chance to have their souls scattered. Arbor said coldly, because I want to restrain their living souls and make them slaves and servants for generations to come. I want them to go through water and tread on fire for my holy water sect's future. I want them to live a life worse than death. Even the old man couldn't help but cast a sidelong glance at his cold tone. Even his soul body felt a sudden chill. In reality, there were many people like Liu Yiji who had been forcefully refined into a golem. A portion of them had been left by Mo Lian's side, while the other portion had been left inside the holy water sect at Rosy Cloud's Peak. Good grandson, did you want to mock your great-grandpa just now? Arbor silently glanced at him. The old man heaved a long sigh. Back then, your grandmaster insisted on staying in the lower star domain and took in so many female disciples from impoverished families. She devoted her entire mind and body to establishing the holy water sect. I want her to travel with me, but that's only if she's willing, right? Arbor cast him a disdainful glance. Did you mention it? The old man sat there motionlessly as if he had been struck by lightning. You didn't even ask. How would you know what she was thinking? Jojo continued to mercilessly stab the old man in the heart. But what's the point of saying all this now? The past is the past. You can't go back, Arbor said coldly. In fact, she despised those indecisive people the most. They would just say whatever they wanted to say. Wasn't it annoying to be hesitant and nervous? You said that if you were rejected, you would only be hurt once. You should make a decision. If you don't say anything, who knows what you're thinking? If Jojo's lotus was also this meek and weak, even after 10,000 years, Lord Jojo wouldn't take a liking to him. Lord Xiao had clearly forgotten that when the two of them first met, His Highness the Crown Prince was able to completely read her thoughts. There was no barrier in their communication at all. His granddaughter's way of stabbing him was too unkind. However, the old man had nothing to say in his grief. The old man seemed to have suddenly stopped his chatterbox heart. He sat beside her in a daze and stared blankly at the stream. Good grandson, do you have wine? You're just a spirit body. You can't drink wine. Arbor expressionlessly struck a blow. The old man instantly revealed a bitter expression. Can I smell the wine? Arbor casually waved her hand, and a pot of chrysanthemum wine appeared in her hand. Chapter 3602. Casually placing the wine jug on the ground, Arbor stood up. I've been here long enough. Can I go out now? The old man picked up the wine jug and kept sniffing the chrysanthemum brew with his nose. He was originally intoxicated, but when he heard the little fellow's words, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. How long have you been here? How long has it been? Do you know how long it took for those people to come in before they could reach the floor you're on? Arbor blinked. Pick out the location of your talisman and break it. Won't you be able to go upstairs? Do you think everyone is like you, a little pervert who can use talisman energy to sense the location of my talisman? The old man blew his beard and glared. This old man set up this Chaoyang restaurant to test my Mu family's descendants, who knew that they're all disappointing. Everyone just wants to get some benefits. None of them can catch this old man's eye. Arbor glanced at him expressionlessly. My big brother isn't that kind of person. Don't make him sound like those hedonistic sons of the Mu family. Who's your big brother? My big brother, Mu Xingqian. Oh, apparently, the old man had some impression of Mu Xingqian. It's that kid who reached the 58th floor. He's not bad, but his talent isn't as good as yours. Sir Jojo glanced at the old man. How many people do you think have talent like mine in this world? The old man was stunned. He obviously didn't expect the little girl to say such conceited words. You don't know what modesty is? The old man asked speechlessly. This girl can't be praised too much. Just like this, she wants to go to heaven. Being overly modest is just being hypocritical. Arbor glanced at him and kicked the stool under his butt. I'm going to continue now. Do you want to follow me? Although the old man said that Chaoyang restaurant was given to her, she decided to continue to show the Mu family her strength. She wanted her name, Arbor, to be passed down on the stone tablet for tens of thousands of generations, crushing everyone in the Mu family. Of course, I won. The old man quickly jumped up and followed her all the way to the track. I'm telling you, this Chaoyang restaurant is now yours. If you do it yourself, You'll be destroying your own things. It's fine if you can jump out of the talisman, but don't destroy it. It wasn't easy for me to make these core array talismans to maintain the hundreds of arrays inside and outside the morning sun in. If you want to destroy everything, I won't let you off. The old man muttered as he followed Lady Xiao toward the barrier. After breaking through the barrier of the 58th level, the scenery before him changed abruptly. At this moment, Mu Tsang, Mu Jingfeng, and the others, who were burning with anxiety, suddenly discovered that the horizontal line flickering with red light on the stone tablet had begun to move again after waiting for about an hour. Let's go. Miss Jojo is starting again. Heavens, it's only been a short while, and she's already broken through the 58th level. Is this person still human? Mu Ro Yin struggled to get up and slapped the stone tablet as she shouted sternly, "Grandfather, father, aren't you going to think of a way to open the door to Chuyang restaurant?" Arbor is chasing after Patriarch Chaoyang inside. Everyone looked at each other in dismay and stared at the second young miss with an extremely strange gaze. Did second young miss injure her head in Chaoyang restaurant? Chapter 3603. Even if there was only a wisp of the Patriarch's soul inside, with Miss Jojo's skinny arms and legs, how could she chase after the Patriarch? Seeing that everyone was looking at her like that, Mu Ro Yin hurriedly pulled Mu Ro Yin aside. "Sister, tell us. Tell us. You saw it with your own eyes, right? That Arbor must have really gone crazy. He caused a ruckus in Chaoyang restaurant and even chased after the Patriarch all the way. Although we were a few floors below, we could still hear it clearly. At that time, Arbor chased after the Patriarch and threw explosion talismans at him, and the Patriarch was still screaming. Everyone looked at each other as if they were in a fantasy. They looked at each other silently and saw a hint of disbelief in each other's eyes. What kind of joke was this? He chased after the Patriarch and threw explosion talismans at him, beating him until he screamed? Why did it feel like Child's Play Mu Royun's little face was cold as she stomped her feet? I don't know the details, but Arbor must have hit our Patriarch Chuyang. Mu Jingfeng glanced at his father and coughed. "Father, look this? What should we do?" The corner of Mu Tsang's eyes twitched, and he instantly felt a little tired. Raising his hand to push his forehead, Mu Tsang said in a low voice, "Come, all the elders gather together. Let's see if we can open Chaoyang restaurant's main door a little. Jingfeng and I will go in to take a look." Yes, all the elders of the Mu family responded in unison. "Father, I'll go in with you." Mu Jingrui interjected worriedly. Mu Tsang turned back to look at his youngest son and nodded with a smile. "That's good. Then everyone come. Work together to open a crack in Chaoyang restaurant. Jingfeng, Jingrui, and I will go in to see what's going on." Yes. All the elders instantly came forward and formed a large circle. One by one, they reached out and placed their hands on each other's backs. At the same time, they gathered their accumulated spiritual energy on Old Master Mu, who was standing at the front. Old Master Mu pushed out a palm and imprinted it on the empty space in front of him. A ripple appeared in front of him, and a translucent barrier appeared in the middle. The old man and the others worked together to tear a small gap in the barrier. In the blink of an eye, Mu Tsang called out to his two sons and flashed into the crack at the same time, stepping into Chaoyang restaurant's territory. Mu Tsang had just said, "Mu clan disciple Mu Tsang greets old ancestor Chuyang." Just then, he heard a delicate reprimand coming from the wind. "You old man, didn't you say that you would give them all to me? How can you let people in so casually? My good grandson, how would I know that someone would suddenly barge in? You call the shots here, you call the shots. If you don't want to see them, just kick them out." "Nonsense. I'm so far away from them. How am I supposed to kick them?" Sir Jojo yelled unhappily. "My dear grandson, all you have to do is to recite the name of one of them and kick them." Mu Jingfeng instantly had a bad premonition. Before he could make a sound, he heard a rustling sound in front of him. Before he could take a defensive posture, he felt a pain in his chest. It really felt like he had been kicked heavily, and he was sent flying by a huge force. At this moment, a group of elders was sitting cross-legged outside, conserving their energy and regulating their breathing. In a while, They would have to open the crack in Chaoyang restaurant's door again to bring the family head and the rest out. Chapter 3604. Who knew the patriarch, who had only gone in for 3 seconds, was sent flying out of the barrier. It was as if he had been kicked out of the barrier. His butt landed heavily on the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one could make a sound for a long time. Mu Jingfeng's butt hurt even more, his chest hurt even more, and his face hurt even more. He could not speak for a while. Still, Mu Jingshuo reacted the quickest and immediately cried out, "Io, boss, what's going on? You were kicked out by our family's old ancestor, right?" The Mu brothers speechlessly looked at him at the same time. This sixth brother's mouth was the worst. Whatever came to his mind, he would spout and make jokes the moment he opened his mouth. What happened? Mu Jingshuo hurried forward to help his eldest brother up. But who knew that Mu Jingfeng would fling his hand away with a sullen face? Cough, big brother. The fourth brother, Mu Jingxiao, stepped forward to help Mu Jingfeng. Seeing his ashen face and thick smoke rising from the top of his head, he did not know what to say to smooth things over for a moment. Mu Jingfeng's lips were tightly pursed, and he was simply unwilling to say anything. If everyone thought that he was kicked out by old ancestor Zhaoyang, his reputation would still be slightly better. If others were to find out that he, Mu Jingfeng, was kicked out of Chaoyang restaurant by that unfilial daughter, then he would really have no place to hide his old face. His anger toward Arbor was practically bursting. If it weren't for the fact that these people were present, he would have wished for nothing more than to enter Morning Sun restaurant again, capture Xiao Mu, and ruthlessly whip her. This unfilial daughter actually dared to treat her father like this. Was there still any law? Was there any justice in this world? If the heavens had eyes, they should send down 100 huge lightning bolts to destroy this unfilial daughter. Mu Jingfeng was extremely indignant. After standing up, his expression remained unchanged. "It's nothing. You guys continue to stand guard here. When Arbor comes out later, inform me." After saying that, he immediately pushed through the crowd and left in a huff. How could he still have the face to continue staying here? Just by looking at the strange smiles in his brother's eyes, he felt that he couldn't continue to stay here. How could a prideful person like him endure this kind of humiliation? His hatred for Xiao Mu had truly reached a peak. At this moment, Mu Tsang and Mu Jingrui finally recovered from their shock in Chaoyang restaurant. He cupped his fist at the air in front of him and said respectfully, "Mu Tsang greets old ancestor Zhaoyang. What are you two doing here?" Old ancestor Zhaoyang was no longer the talkative old man he had been when he was talking to Arbor. A big, solemn face suddenly appeared out of thin air in front of Mu Tsang and Mu Jingrui. With a face full of resentment, he said, "I previously said that only my Mu family's younger generation can enter this Chaoyang restaurant. What are you two doing here? Get out." "Yes, yes," Mu Tsang repeatedly said. "Ancestor, are you all right? What could possibly happen to me?" "Forefather," Chaoyang snapped. "Get out of here. Don't obstruct my good grandson from climbing the stairs." Mu Tsang and his son Mu Jingrui exchanged glances. Mu Jingrui promptly bowed and hesitated before saying, "Ancestor, Jojo is still young and has a reclusive personality. Her actions are a bit out of line. If she has offended you in any way, I hope you won't hold it against her." "What nonsense are you spouting?" Chapter 3605. Patriarch Chaoyang revealed a protective expression and grumpily scolded Mu Jingrui. "You're the one who's eccentric and out of line. My good granddaughter just doesn't like to talk, that's all. She's smart and quick-witted. Who knows how many tens of thousands of times more outstanding than you people. Hurry and scram. Don't obstruct my good granddaughter from climbing the stairs. I'm afraid my good granddaughter is going to break the record for the stone tablet in front of my Chaoyang pavilion." Thinking of this, the old man's large face hanging in the air smiled until all his wrinkles were exposed. Mu Jingrui looked at Patriarch Chaoyang strangely, then turned back to look at his father and quietly muttered, "Doesn't seem like it." "What doesn't seem like it?" Patriarch Chaoyang instantly scolded him in annoyance. "You brat, speak properly and say it louder." Mu Jingrui was instantly speechless and exchanged glances with his father. Mu Tsang awkwardly coughed. That patriarch Chao Yang, it's a misunderstanding. This is a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Patriarch Chao Yang's face was full of sharpness as he unhappily asked, "What? Did you guys forcefully open Chao Yang Pavilion's door and barge in? Or did something really happen? Since you came in, why didn't you tell this old man clearly? Hurry and speak." Mu Tsang's mouth involuntarily twitched as he stammered. It's the two granddaughters that you kicked out just now. They're worried about your safety." The more Mu Tsang spoke, the more he felt that he was a bit retarded if he said everything in front of Patriarch Chao Yang. Those two children's paths in this lifetime could be considered to have come to an end. Nothing, Patriarch. Mu Tsang quickly shook his head and coughed lightly, saying, Since Patriarch is fine, then we'll go out first." Mu Tsang was about to contact the elders outside to tear open the crack in the barrier and let the father and son out. Unexpectedly, Patriarch Chao Yang's large head suddenly floated down. His large illusory face pressed down on the father and son's heads just like that, his eyes staring straight at them. To be honest, this appearance was indeed a bit frightening. The father and son looked at each other, feeling goosebumps rising in their hearts. Old ancestor. Mu Jingrui braced himself and called out, "Finish what you just said." Old ancestor Chao Yang's face was full of anger. "Tell me, what did they say after they left?" These two girls, this old man's eyes were extremely sharp, and he could tell at a glance that these two girls were not good people. Those who entered Chao Yang restaurant came in through the back door. Originally, the old ancestor was a little disheartened because he hadn't seen many satisfactory disciples in recent years. After all these years, the Mu family was probably getting worse with each generation. This Chaoyang restaurant could only be used as a place for future disciples to dig for treasures. He would just let the two girls pick whatever they wanted and leave. Who would have known that the aptitude of these two girls was so poor? They were the two with the worst aptitudes that he had seen over the years. It would be strange if such a talent was arranged to enter Chaoyang brothel. Looking at how they had spent so much effort wandering around the second or fourth floor in comparison, there was a little freak who had just entered Chaoyang restaurant and could go up to the 18th floor in one go. There really was no harm without comparison, and the old ancestor became even angrier when he did. In his anger, he gave each of the two girls a kick. Chapter 3606. These two kicks caused Mu Ruyin and Mu Royun to be kicked out of Chaoyang restaurant by the forefather. The forefather didn't expect that these two girls with evil intentions would dare to spread rumors outside and stir up trouble. This was simply preposterous. Thus, when he got angry, Mu Tsang and Mu Jingrui felt a bit of pressure from the bottom of their hearts. "Speak." Seeing that the forefather was about to get angry, Mu Jingrui didn't dare to hide anything. He hurriedly recounted everything that Mu Ruyin and Mu Royun had said. Ruyin said that you've been yelling the whole way that you're going to betray your master and exterminate your ancestors. She was worried about your safety. That's why she had us rush over so urgently to take a look. After saying that, Mu Jingrui also felt that this matter was a bit unreliable. Seeing the forefather's intimate attitude toward Arbor, he probably treated Arbor much better than any of the family's juniors. It wasn't like Arbor would really chase after the forefather, right? Moreover, with the forefather's current cultivation, even if 3 to 5 little Arbor came, they wouldn't be able to touch the forefather's soul in the slightest, right? They had all been tricked by Mu Ruyin and Mu Royun and ran in to get beaten up. Mu Jingrui took a deep breath and returned to his senses. He hurriedly said, "Please calm your anger, forefather." Mu Tsang also recovered at this time. He was outside earlier because he was worried that with his granddaughter's temper, she might really do something to betray her master and exterminate her ancestors now that he thought about it carefully. Although this granddaughter of his was very cold and cheerless, her character was very good. He should have trusted her. Mu Tsang hurriedly cupped his hands and shouted, "Forefather, this disciple was muddle-headed. Please forgive me. This disciple will go out now." "Of course you're muddle-headed." Forefather Chuyang shouted irritably. The Mu family is really getting worse with each generation in your hands. Forefather Chuyong snorted coldly. This old man will go out with you. I have something to announce while I'm at it. Mutsong instantly broke out in cold sweat. Forefather Chuyong coldly glanced at Mutsong and Mu Jingrue. If the Mu family is left to you to manage, it will decline. The most outstanding disciples of the Mu clan have all changed their names. What did you do? Is it because I haven't been on the continent for decades that you don't even have the brains to do things? The Long family was originally our ally, and now that our relationship has become like this, you all have an inescapable responsibility. Mutsong's face was immediately filled with shame. He lowered his head and cupped his hands. Yes, old ancestor is right. Forefather Chao Yang snorted. If you hadn't chosen the wrong patriarch, how could the family have ended up like this? I can't help but feel angry when I see your foul faces. Forefather Zhaoyang scolded Mu Tsong the moment he opened his mouth. There was nothing Old Master Mu could do. After all, Old Master Mu was the most prestigious old master in the history of the Mu family. If he scolded him, then so be it. Let the old man vent his anger. Then everything will probably be fine. Let's go. Old ancestor Chao Yang snorted and waved his hand. I'll go with you. Mu Tsong immediately smiled bitterly and exchanged glances with Mu Jingrue before nodding repeatedly. Now that he followed the old ancestor out, there was no need for the elders outside to work hard to open the Chuyong Pavilion's door. The two followed behind old ancestor Chao Yang. As soon as they went out, old ancestor Chao Yang's wrinkled face enlarged and appeared above everyone's head. Chapter 36:07. Who was the one who spread rumors in the clan? Who said that I was chased and beaten by my granddaughter? Ancestor Chao Yang roared as soon as he went out. Mu Ro Yin and Mu Ro Yin were so scared that they rolled on the ground. They didn't expect that Ancestor Chao Yang's soul could still come out of the Chao Yang pavilion. Greetings, greetings, Ancestor. The two sisters hurriedly crawled forward and respectfully kowtowed in front of Ancestor Chao Yang. Ancestor Chao Yang didn't care about their respect at all and continued to glare at them. Shameless. How dare you make up lies and slander my reputation? Did he not care about his reputation? If word got out that he was chased and beaten by his granddaughter with an explosion talisman, wouldn't he feel embarrassed? Ancestor, please spare our lives. Ancestor, please spare our lives. Mu Ro Yin and Mu Ro Yin were so scared that their hair stood on end. They didn't expect that Ancestor Chao Yang would really come out of the pavilion to settle the score with them. So it was indeed Mu Ro Yin and Mu Ro Yin who were spouting nonsense. The Mu clan disciples all talked at once and whispered. Like I said, Ancestor is a senior expert. How could he be chased and beaten by Miss Jojo? Everyone nodded in agreement. Their eyes were still filled with disdain as they looked coldly at Mu Ro Yin and Mu Ro Yun. The good days of these two sisters could be considered to have come to an end, now that they had offended Ancestor Chao Yang. Not to mention that their concubine couldn't protect them. Even the patriarch wouldn't be able to settle this matter completely. Mu Ro Yin was slightly smarter than her sister. When she realized that the situation wasn't right, she hurriedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Her head hit the limestone floor and made a thumping sound. Ancestor, I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to my sister's words. I didn't know the truth and spoke casually and tarnished Ancestor's reputation. Mu Ro Yun's words immediately pushed the blame to her sister, Mu Ro Yin. Mu Ro Yin was instantly flabbergasted. She turned back to look at her and hurriedly kowtowed. Matriarch, this has nothing to do with me. Old Ancestor Zhaoyang was too lazy to listen to their bickering. He waved his hand and said, as a disciple of the Mu family, if you harbor evil intentions, you will not be able to achieve great things in the future. Mu Tsong, from tomorrow onwards, send these two disciples out of the main family. Let them go to a barren land to temper their temperament. Mu Tsong smiled bitterly and nodded. He cupped his hands and replied, yes. Since the ancestor had spoken, he naturally had to do as he was told. Mu Ro Yin and Mu Ro Yun were completely dumbfounded. Did the patriarch mean that he was going to chase them out of the imperial capital and send them to a remote place where even the chickens wouldn't lay eggs or birds wouldn't shit? The two sisters, Mu Ro Yin and Mu Ro Yun, no longer cared about fighting each other. They wept bitterly and kowtowed as they begged for mercy. Arbor, who was climbing the stairs in Morning Sun Pavilion, didn't know that the ancestors' words had dealt with two people she hated the most. She didn't know how much time had passed, but Arbor felt that the scenery in front of her had changed many times. The people outside the pavilion had gone from shock and petrification to numbness. Before today, if someone had told them that someone could climb the entire 90th floor of Morning Sun Pavilion in one go, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. Today, reality gave them a resounding slap in the face. It blinded everyone's dog eyes. Chapter 3608. Arbor stood at the entrance of a mountain and looked up at the three words, Morning Sun Pavilion, hanging high in the air. He understood that he had finally reached the most crucial part of the climb. He reckoned that he would be able to reach the core treasure land of Morning Sun Pavilion after breaking through the 8th or 9th floor. The little fellow was a little tired after all the trouble. She ran in her own fish orchid planet and ate 2 colorful divine fish that Xiao had roasted. She drank 3 cups of spirit tea and rested for a long time. Only then did she leave the star domain and continue climbing. After the 90th floor, not only did they need to search for array talismans, Arbor also began to encounter many ferocious beasts. Subduing these ferocious beasts naturally required some effort. Unfortunately, Miss Xiao had more people on her side. When she was too lazy to deal with the ferocious beasts, she would let Qi Xian and the rest out and beat them up. The matter was easily resolved. On the other side, the patriarch was lecturing the Mu family members nonstop outside. Who would have thought that the little girl was cheating all the way? Patriarch, it's the 99th floor. The 99th floor. Patriarch, patriarch. When Mu Jinchua cried out in shock and abruptly interrupted Patriarch Chao Yang's long-winded lecture, everyone's expressions had already turned from numb to tranquil. Haha. Don't ask them why they had such expressions. Because at this moment, they simply didn't know what other expressions they could show other than being expressionless. Shock, 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 and stupefaction. Don't joke around. They had already gotten used to it since yesterday evening. Like idiots, they stood for an entire night until dawn, and someone broke through the 99th floor of Morning Sun Pavilion. Was this a myth? This was definitely a myth. At this moment, Mu Jingrui could only look at his father with a wry smile. Needless to say, this child Jojo's talent was truly much higher than anyone else in the family. No wonder the patriarch liked her so much and valued her so much. The patriarch also turned to look at Morning Sun Pavilion and beamed. This old man wants to announce the second matter. This old man wants to pass on the position of Mu family head to my good grandson. At first, everyone thought that they were hallucinating, but after looking at each other, they realized that everyone else had the same confused expression on their faces. Suddenly, their whole body quivered, and the drowsiness from standing all night was instantly awakened by the shock. Old ancestor, W, what did you say? The Mu family's second son, Mu Jingxing, had an ashen face. It could be said that he was quite unsightly. What kind of joke was this? Previously, he was already very dissatisfied with Mu Jingfeng, who had neither virtue nor talent, succeeding the family head's position. Now, the old ancestor actually said that he wanted a young and inexperienced lass to lead the entire Mu family. Meanwhile, Arbor was standing on a 99-story Morning Sun building's core defensive array. With a thought, Xiao Chun casually waved his hand. Mu Jiadeng, who was sitting cross-legged on the 12th floor of the Morning Sun Pavilion, appeared on the transparent barrier in front of the formation. As long as someone entered Choyang Tower, Arbor would be able to see it if he wanted to. Turning off Mu Jiadeng's image, Arbor slowly walked through the core defense array and looked up at the 4 golden bronze doors in front of him. Reaching out to push open the first door, Sir Jojo walked in expressionlessly with a pair of small paws behind his back. Seeing the emptiness inside, The little fellow's eyes did not have the slightest ripple. She took out 2 revealing talismans and flicked them out. Chapter 3609. Rows and rows of bookshelves slowly appeared in the originally empty space in front of her. The antique air was filled with the scent of books and ink. Neatly arranged books were all placed on the bookshelves carved from red sandalwood. Mo-Fei. Arbor walked towards the bookshelves and suddenly felt her vision blur. The rows of bookshelves had disappeared, and she felt as if she was standing under a vast starry sky. Scattered in front of his eyes were lumps of milky white halos, scattered in a disorderly manner. These halos were all floating in front of Arbor. They were of different sizes and shapes. Arbor raised a small hand and casually grabbed a small light spot. Holding it in her hand, she used her divine sense to penetrate it. Only then did she see clearly that it was a book about medicine. She gently let go of the book and went to grab another small light spot. What she saw now was a book about cultivation method inheritance. Presumably, this first golden bronze door contained all kinds of cultivation method inheritance manuals, as well as some books related to pills and talismans that the Mu family had collected since the upper 3 continents. Arbor slowly walked under the vast starry sky in front of her. She reached out and flipped through the cultivation method manuals in front of her. Seeing a 9 lightning haze spiritual technique, she took it and planned to give it to Xian to learn later. Just like that, she wandered under the starry sky for more than 2 hours. Arbor looked at the vast sea of books in the distance and decided to leave it at that for the time being. If she continued to wander like this, she didn't know if she could finish browsing in 3 days and 3 nights. She still wanted to go to the other 3 spaces and see what was inside. After exiting the first golden bronze door, the heavy door closed by itself. Standing before these large doors, Xiaomu was like a tiny blade of grass. This door was estimated to be 100 feet tall. From this, it could be seen how vast the space inside was. At this moment, above the first door, on the originally empty signboard, 3 large words appeared: Book Collection Pavilion. Arbor glanced at it and turned to walk towards the second door. She gently pushed the door with her palm. The second golden bronze door creaked and automatically opened inwards. The little fellow stomped through the door, leaving a slender shadow at the door. As soon as he walked in, he could smell the fragrance of herbs in the air. It seemed that this should be a medicinal pill pavilion. After throwing out a talisman, the scene in front of him still transformed into a sea of stars. However, at this moment, the sea of stars in front of him was filled with all kinds of green herbs. Inside those small light spots of different sizes were elixirs made by famous masters. Every single one of them was at least at the divine tier. He walked around Arbor and didn't find any pills or herbs that were below God tier. He was amazed by forefather Chao Yang's generosity. This was a proper nouveau riche. Arbor waved his hand and took out a pill wrapped in a ball of light. He sniffed it and swallowed it. At the same time, the 2 Bion eggs and the 3 puppies suddenly jumped out excitedly. They jumped back and forth in the starry sky, and the eggs and dogs barked. Arbor looked at them expressionlessly and stepped on the tail of one of the puppies. Calm down. They'd been with her for so long, but they still looked like country bumpkins. They were so excited at the sight of some god-tier pills. Sure enough, the forefather was the forefather. After living for so many years and accumulating so much wealth, he wasn't much worse than her at all. Chapter 3610. Arbor picked up a few pills and held the 3 puppies and 2 eggs. She knocked their heads one by one without any expression on her face. Of course, the eggs were round, so it didn't matter where she knocked them. These pills are for you. Arbor stuffed the pills into the puppy's hands and put them away. She held the 2 eggs in her hands and tilted her head. I'll give you some medicinal liquid to soak in later. Behave yourself for now. The 2 Bion eggs had been through a lot. Without enough sacred power to support them, it was very difficult to make them break out of their shells. Xiao Mu stroked her small chin as she pondered. Didn't venerable ancestors say that he collected all the rare treasures in the world? His grotto heaven and immortal abodes were everywhere in the 3 provinces, and he even found a sacred meridian? If he could find that holy vein, perhaps the two buying eggs could still be saved. Thinking of this, the little girl's mood improved. She walked out of the golden bronze door and went to the next room. In the third room, there were many magic treasures and artifacts. Arbor planned to organize them when she was free. She replaced some of the things in the Maple Pavilion and gave some good ones to her senior sisters. As for the fourth door, Arbor couldn't open it. She walked around the door curiously, but didn't find anything unusual. Since she couldn't open it for the time being, Arbor didn't think about it anymore. She walked out of the Chaoyang Pavilion and heard a commotion. Arbor didn't care about the people of the Mu family who were talking at once. She turned to Patriarch Chaoyang and shouted, "Are you going back? I'm going to start collecting." The old man said that the whole Chaoyang Pavilion was hers, so it was hers. Sir Siqiao was not someone who liked to be courteous to others. Since the old man was willing to send him off, Sir Siqiao could only gladly accept it. Patriarch Chaoyang had expressed his intention clearly. He was a little tired now. After all, he was only a soul and had to wait for his body to come back. Before leaving, the old man shouted at Mu-tsang with dissatisfaction. "You little brat, ask someone to remove my memorial tablet from the ancestral hall." The old man wasn't dead yet. Offering incense to the memorial tablet so early in the morning, could it be that they couldn't wait for him to die early? Mu-tsang's old face stiffened. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. How could he have expected Ancestor Zhaoyang to be so mischievous? It had to be known that the life lantern he had enshrined in the ancestral hall had long since disappeared. In addition, Ancestor Zhaoyang had not appeared in the past few decades. Who would have thought that Ancestor Zhaoyang had only gone out to travel? Of course, there were even more ridiculous things to come. Old Ancestor Chaoyang, on the other hand, showed up and reprimanded his descendants. After that, he went back to hiding in Chaoyang Pavilion. In the end, he had left behind a huge mess, and he still needed this old man to deal with it. Just thinking about it made him feel tired. Chamo didn't care what the other people from the Mu clan were thinking. With a flick of her finger, she swiftly struck out several talismans according to Ancestor Chaoyang's instructions, storing the Morning Sun restaurant in front of her into a sealing talisman. Subsequently, she tossed it to her fish orchid planet for the sapling to set up. As for Mu Jiating, who was still in Chaoyang Pavilion, Arbor did not make things difficult for him. Since Mu Jiating had entered the Chaoyang Pavilion with his own ability, he could continue. When Mu Jiating left the Chaoyang Pavilion, he would ask Qiuqiu to throw him out of Fish Orchid Star. Chapter 36:11. Everyone in the Mu family, from the elders to the disciples, had complicated expressions on their faces as they watched this little girl take away the entire Chaoyang Pavilion. If someone had told them that Chaoyang Pavilion would be taken away by a Mu family disciple one day, they would never have believed it. However, today, reality slapped them twice on the right after slapping them on the left side of their faces. Painful, it really hurts. Especially Elder Qing and the others. The expressions on their old faces were very interesting. Previously, they had been making things difficult for this little ancestor by not letting her enter Chaoyang Pavilion. In the end, not only did the little grandaunt enter the Chaoyang restaurant herself, she also reached the 99th floor in one go, breaking the Mu family's 100-year record. Now, she even sealed the entire Chaoyang restaurant and took it away. She took it away. Regardless of whether this fella took Chaoyang Pavilion into her storage talisman or not, this Chaoyang Pavilion had become this fella's private property from now on. How could they accept this? How could they endure this? None of the Mu family members could bear it, let alone Elder Qing and the others. The smiles on their old faces were long gone as they frequently looked in Mu-tsang's direction. Mu-tsang didn't say anything and only looked at Arbor with a gentle gaze. "Jojo, come with Grandpa to the hall. Go invite the patriarch, the first elder, second elder, and third elder to come to the hall." Hearing this, everyone looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. "You guys come too." Mu-tsang nodded faintly at Mu Jingxing, Elder Qing, and the others before turning to leave. Sir Jojo didn't know what had happened and only looked curiously at everyone's expression as if they had stepped on dog poop. It seemed rather interesting. Everyone looked agitated and uneasy, especially the second son, Mu Jingxing. He almost couldn't control the twitching muscles on his face and the angry expression on his face. Father, wasn't old ancestor's decision a little too hasty? Mu Jingxing shouted his father's back as he hurriedly left. Mu Tsang ignored his son's clamoring behind his back and just sped up his pace to leave. Mu Jingxing turned around and glared fiercely at Arbor. Arbor was even more baffled. She could not figure out what was wrong with Mu Jingxing to suddenly make things difficult for her. But it didn't matter. Anyway, she had never put Mu Jingxing and the rest in her eyes. As for what they thought of her, it had nothing to do with her. Because of Mu Tsang's order, everyone could only resentfully walk towards the main hall. However, there were still many people who looked at Arbor strangely from time to time. Arbor thought that they were probably jealous that she had obtained all the treasures in Chuyang Tower. Since she had indeed gained a lot of benefits from this trip, if these people wanted to glare at her, then let them be. Jojo decided to put up with them until he couldn't take it anymore. Then, he would smack them to death and teach them a lesson. In this way, the Mu family entered the Mu family's main hall with a strange atmosphere. Those pairs of strange eyes glanced at Arbor from time to time, but no one dared to provoke her. In the end, how this matter would develop depended on the old patriarch. It wasn't something that could be decided by a bunch of small fries shouting here. Everyone filed into the main hall and sat down. Chapter 36:12. Arbor also followed in. She looked around and found a seat at the head of the table. Mu Jingxing, who was slower than her by a beat, glared at her with an indignant expression. He muttered something under his breath and unwillingly sat down at the seat next to her. Arbor glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. She did not understand why Mu Jingxing was so resentful toward her today. Could it be that he ate the wrong medicine? Mu Tsang sat at the head of the table and raised his arm slightly. Is the family head not here yet? As he spoke, Mu Jingfeng stormed in with a furious expression, followed by the two sisters, Mu Rouyin and Mu Rouyun, who were crying their eyes out. Mu Jingfeng's current mood was naturally extremely bad. He did not expect that his two daughters, whom he had doted on since they were young, would actually be banished from the main family. Although he hated that his two daughters did not live up to his expectations, this did not mean that he was willing to give up on his two beautiful daughters just like that. These were the daughters that he had spent a lot of effort to nurture. Now that Mu Rochuan was no longer of any use, if he were to lose these two daughters, he would truly be unable to accept it. Arbor inexplicably swept a glance at the two weeping fools and inwardly snorted in disdain. Crazy. Weren't they just kicked out of Chow Yang restaurant by the old ancestor and did not reap any benefits? Was there a need to cry and complain to their father? What? Did these two sisters think that by crying to Mu Jingfeng, they could continue to cheat their way in a Chow Yang restaurant? They were simply indulging in fantasy. Arbor coldly snorted and disdainfully glanced at the two fools. At this moment, she still did not know that the old ancestor had already helped her harshly teach these two sisters a lesson. What happened next was enough for the two sisters to be unlucky for the rest of their lives. Mu Ruyin and Mu Royun both knelt down and covered their faces as they sobbed uncontrollably. The more Arbor looked at the two sisters, the more vexed he felt. He looked up at the old man sitting at the head of the table. What are the two of them doing here? You evil, before the word evil creature could leave his mouth. Mu Jingfeng felt his father, Mu Tsang, shooting him a sharp glare from the head of the table, and he forcibly swallowed his curses. Mu Tsang glared angrily at Mu Jingfeng, and his words were very rude. Why did you bring the two of them here? You didn't hear what the patriarch said earlier. I'll repeat it for you now. Mu Tsang reprimanded with a cold face. Ancestors' meaning is to send these two children out of the main family to gain experience and temper their temperament. If you can't bear to part with your two daughters, then go with them. Mu Jingfeng stared blankly at his father. How many years had it been? His father had never spoken to him in such a tone. After all, he was now the Mu family's head, and his status in the family was extremely honorable. No matter what his father said or did, he had to give him some face. But now, his father actually slapped him in the face in public and even told him to scram from the Mu family. What was going on? Mutsong raised his hand to rub his brows and glared at his two granddaughters kneeling on the floor with dissatisfaction. The patriarch is right. The two of you should properly go out to gain experience and temper your temperament. Right now, he wasn't really expelling the two of them from the Mu family. He was merely sending them to a branch family to undergo life training. Looking at how the two of them were crying, where was the tenacity and indomitable temperament of cultivators? Could it be that after so many years, the Mu family had trained such disciples? Chapter 36:13. Then what kind of strength and cultivation did they have to compete with other patrician families in the future? The more Mutsong looked at Mu Jingfeng, the more he found him to be an eyesore. Look at all the unpresentable things he did. What did he do to the Mu family all these years? Right now, he couldn't help but wonder if his decision to let Mu Jingfeng succeed the family head position back then was a mistake. At this moment, alarm bells were ringing in Mu Jingfeng's heart. He saw his father's look of denial. His father's eyes were filled with disappointment and suspicion, causing his heart to be lifted up fiercely and uncontrollably thump. At this point, Arbor finally understood. As it turned out, Mu Ro-yin and her sister weren't crying like this because Patriarch Chao Yang kicked them out of Chuyang Pavilion and didn't obtain any treasures. Instead, it was because these two people were banished by Patriarch Chao Yang. This really was good news. This meant that in the future, Sir Jojo wouldn't need to see these two idiots and listen to their long-winded chatter. Arbor was a bit agitated and involuntarily swept a glance at the unlucky sisters. Coincidentally, Mu Ro-yin raised her head and saw the little stoic's expressionless face. The resentment and hatred in her heart instantly surged, and she couldn't help but raise her voice and shriek, "I refuse to accept this. Arbor, do you dare to swear to the heavens that you didn't commit an act of deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors in Chaoyang Pavilion? Do you dare to swear that you didn't use an explosion talisman to blow up the entire Chaoyang Pavilion and chase after the patriarch and kill him? Do you dare to swear?" Everyone's gazes focused on Arbor. "Impudent!" Mu Tsong bellowed. "The patriarch already said that there was absolutely no such thing. Are you questioning the patriarch's decision?" "Grandpa," Mu Ro-yin burst into tears. "I don't want to leave the imperial capital. I don't want to go to that lousy branch family. This matter isn't up to you." Mutsong waved his hand impatiently. "Guards, escort these two back. Watch them pack their things and send them away tomorrow morning." "Grandpa!" The two sisters burst into tears. They wanted to lie on the ground and plead for mercy, but Mutsong obviously didn't give them the chance to continue talking nonsense. He directly ordered people to drag the two of them away. Mu Ro-yin and her sister bitterly turned to look at their father, Mu Jingfeng. However, at this moment, Mu Jingfeng was also shocked by old Master Mu's cold expression. How would he dare to plead for leniency? He simply allowed the servants to bring them away. Mutsong coldly glanced at Mu Jingfeng. Family head, ancestor appeared just now and made an important decision. His voice was very calm, but the hearts of the Mu family members present were not calm at all. Mu Jingxing's face couldn't help but twitch. He tried his best to suppress the resentment in his heart and turned to glare at Arbor, who was sitting on his left. "The old ancestor has decided that you should abdicate and hand over the position of clan head." Mu Jingfeng's facial muscles twitched, and he could not help but shout, "Father!" He thought that this decision was Mu Tsong's own decision, and that he was only using the ancestor's name. "You think this is my decision?" Mu Tsong glanced at his son and calmly said, "Back then, after you were kicked out of Chaoyang Pavilion, you left in a fit of anger. Ancestor Chao Yang appeared with us and announced this decision." "I don't agree." Mu Jingfeng's face flushed red. "Arbor's surname isn't Mu." Chapter 36:14. She even abandoned her Mu family surname. On what basis should she be the head of the household? Mu Jingfeng's face could not help but slightly contort. Elder Qing's expression was complicated. That's right. Furthermore, the crown princess has only returned to China not long ago, letting her shoulder the entire Mu family's future. Isn't this too much of a trifling matter? The crown princess is still young. She's not suitable. That's right. As the imperial family's daughter-in-law, the crown princess will have many trivial matters to attend to in the future. It's not good to bother her with the Mu family's matters. All sorts of voices emerged, but every word was negative toward Arbor's succession as the head of the household. Of course, the decisions made by the head of the household over the years have also harmed the family's interests. In particular, his attitude toward the Long family has also been wrong. Old family head, you can choose another suitable disciple to inherit the position of the head of the household. Oh, who does Elder Fu think is suitable to inherit the position of the head of the household? Mutsong asked coldly as he looked at the elder on his left who was spouting nonsense. I think Jingxing is quite suitable. As soon as he said this, Mu Jingxing immediately cupped his hands toward the elder who nominated him. He could not help but smile as he modestly declined. Elder Fu is too kind. In terms of qualifications, Jingxing may not be enough. Furthermore, Jingxing has no intention of stealing Big Brother's limelight. After saying this, he cupped his hands toward the unsightly Mu Jingfeng with a tactful look. Mu Tsong harumphed and abruptly raised his hand to slap the table. All of you shut up. Jingxing, you are indeed not qualified to be the next head of the household. The old man's words instantly made Mu Jingxing's face turn ashen. He understood his father very well. Since his father had completely rejected him, it meant that he had absolutely no hope for the position of the head of the household. It was just that he had to respectfully address Arbor as the head of the household in the future. No matter what, it was hard for him to accept. Thinking of this, Mu Jingxing said with an ugly expression, Father, although old ancestor Xiaoyang personally named Arbor as the head of the household, but it's clear that this child is still young and inexperienced. She's not suitable to be our Mu family's head in all aspects. I agree with Jingxing. I agree too. Seeing that the whole family was against it, Mu Jingfeng's face, which was as black as the bottom of a pot, looked slightly better. As long as everyone objected in unison and there was no suitable candidate in the family, then for the time being, there would be no change in the position of the family head. Mu Jingxing, this brat, had grown wings in recent years and started to have special ideas. It seemed like it was time to teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he would think that he could surpass his big brother and suppress him in everything he did. With that thought in mind, Mu Jingfeng turned to look at his second brother, and his gaze darkened further. However, in the next second, his expression changed drastically. Old Master Mutsong said in a deep voice, The reason why I gathered you here is not to listen to any of your opinions. Instead, I am informing all of you that I will abide by the ancestors' wishes and let Jing Feng abdicate to Qiao Qiao. You only need to know this clearly. Although old Master Mu's voice was extremely faint, his words, which did not allow anyone to object, were sonorous and forceful. In an instant, he blocked everyone's words. Arbor blinked. As the person involved, she was also a little confused. Head of the household? Her. Chapter 36:15. Did she really not hear wrongly? Did old Master Mu mean that he wanted Mu Jingfeng to abdicate the family head position to her? He even said that this was old ancestor Chaoyang's intention. What was going on? Why did she feel like everything was going out of her control the moment she came out of Chaoyang restaurant? Sir Jojo expressionlessly looked up at Mu Tsong and jumped up from the stool. Before you all discuss this family head position, shouldn't you ask for my opinion first? Everyone turned to look at the young lady, dumbfounded. Opinion? What opinion could you have? What's the matter? You can still have an opinion when the Mu family head position is placed in front of you. Is this still acceptable? Is there still justice in this world? Mu Tsong coughed lightly and turned to look at his little granddaughter. He asked kindly, Jojo, speak. I don't have the slightest interest in the position of the Mu clan's patriarch. Xiao Mu's words instantly set off a storm in the entire hall. Especially Mu Jingxing, who was sitting below her and had just been denied the right to inherit the family head position by old Master Mu's words, could not bear it any longer and jumped up as well. Arbor, don't be too arrogant. Mu Jingxing said angrily. Do you think that the Mu family head position is child's play? Their Mu family was a large aristocratic family with a 1,000-year-old legacy. Among the 6 major aristocratic families of China, they were ranked third. Compared to the Qin estate's wealth and the Duan estate's inheritance, their Mu family was only slightly inferior. What's the matter? How can you, Arbor, be wronged in inheriting the Mu family head position? Mu Jingxing's words resonated with many of the Mu family's descendants. Everyone glared at Miss Xiao as if they were enemies, completely forgetting that they were all in denial and did not want Arbor to inherit the family head position. But now, once they discovered that Arbor simply scoffed at the family head position, they became even more dissatisfied. How old was this little girl? What right did she have to look down on their large aristocratic family with a 1,000-year-old legacy? She really wanted to go to heaven. Arbor glanced at the people around him and curled his lips in annoyance. Just your family? You want me to take over? Keep on dreaming. Look at you motley crew. What kind of people are you? Arbor criticized him mercilessly. To put it nicely, he's an elder of the family and a mainstay of the noble families of inheritance. To put it bluntly, they are a bunch of trash. The little girl did not give him any face and spoke bluntly. Her words caused the expressions of everyone present to change. You! Elder Qing suddenly jumped up from his seat and shouted at the head of the family. Family head, you heard it too? What is this girl talking about? You don't even want to use our Mu family surname. You're really a traitor. You just don't want to be united with our Mu family. Right. How can such a person inherit the position of the Mu clan's patriarch? Even if it's an order from old ancestor Zhao Yang, I won't accept it. Yes, I'm not convinced. Everyone clamored and slapped the tables, chairs, and benches beside them, making thumping sounds. What? Do you feel like your dignity has been insulted? Arbor was not afraid of these people who were fuming with rage and glaring at him, looking as if they wanted to eat him alive. Chapter 36:16. She calmly turned her head and swept a glance around before pointing at Mu Jingxing. You, all day long, think that you're very capable. TSK. In the end, you're short-sighted and only have eyes for the small plot of land in front of you. You only want to use power and tricks to compete with Mu Jingfeng for the family head position. Those who are truly capable should go out and make a name for themselves. Go out and do your own business. You're already so old, yet you only want to inherit the family business and the ancestral property. No wonder the old ancestor looks down on you guys. Look at you guys. Each and every one of you has lived for so long, yet even a teenage child understands reason. You guys, on the other hand, don't understand. The descendants taught are all the same as you guys. Each and every one of you only knows how to raise a fuss at home. If someone comes knocking on your door, do you dare to resist? Just like more than 10 years ago, when your ally, the Long family, was besieged, did you dare to come out and fart? You don't dare, right? If you don't dare, then don't talk nonsense. Ask yourselves honestly, which one of you who wants to go to Chaoyang, Lu doesn't want to run there for benefits? Which one of you is truly going there for the purpose of gaining experience? The talismans passed down in the family are missing. Among you guys, how many of you are truly studying talisman arts? You're already so old, yet you're still only an advanced talisman master. Aren't you ashamed? Arbor casually pointed at an elder whose beard and eyebrows were trembling nonstop as she reprimanded. Don't joke around. Seriously, Arbor, can't find any young subordinates? There's so many people in the world who dare to fight, charge, and work hard. If I don't look for them, why would I look for you guys? Why would I want you guys to be a bunch of trash? What can you do by staying by my side? I even find it a waste of my food. She practically didn't catch her breath as she reprimanded them. After speaking, even Sir Jojo herself felt tired. A bunch of fools. What was she wasting her breath on them for? Arbor directly turned and walked out of the main hall. She waved her hand and said, a plate of loose sand, a motley crew. Whoever wants to be the family head can be. Don't come looking for me. You. How could the elder, who was directly pointed at his nose and asked if he was ashamed, endure such idle anger? He jumped up for his seat and threw an attack talisman at Arbor's back. Old Master Moo, who was sitting at the head of the table, snorted. "Stop it." But the talisman had already turned into a streak of light, and the surging talisman energy rushed towards Arbor's back. A frog in a well. Arbor turned her head and moved her finger slightly. A jade talisman jumped out and scattered specks of light in front of her, directly absorbing the opponent's attack talisman. That jade talisman floated in midair, and with Xiao Mu's shout, "Go!" it flew towards that elder whose complexion had turned slightly green with a whoosh. "Elder Do!" everyone exclaimed. The jade talisman emitted a strange light, and a surging attack talisman force rushed toward Elder Do's chest. This time he was sent flying. With a bang, he smashed into the armchair on the left, smashing the poor chair into pieces. He also rolled to the ground, groaning and groaning for a long time, unable to get up. "The power of an ant!" Arbor shouted and flipped her hand. A jade talisman with a strange light was flicked in front of Elder Do Freeze. The jade talisman suddenly turned into powder and dissipated in the air. Everyone took a closer look. Oh God! Elder Do was petrified on the ground. Chapter 36:17. When this old man rolled down from the stool, one of his legs was slightly raised, and both his hands were spread open, posing as if he was struggling with all his might. At this moment, he was extremely embarrassed. He was frozen on the spot with this action. His entire facial expression was stiff, and his muscles kept twitching slightly. His pair of turbid old eyes could not help but spew out flames. Arbor couldn't be bothered to look at this old man. He directly turned around and left without saying a word. Family head. 3 elders walked in from the door and turned to look in the direction the little fellow left. "Sigh, first elder, second elder, third elder, you're finally here." Mutsong smiled bitterly as he stood up from his seat. "You all saw the situation just now." Mutsong sighed. "Old ancestors' wishes cannot be disobeyed. See if there's any way to resolve this matter." The muscles on Mu Jingfeng's cheeks trembled slightly, and he couldn't help but blurt out, "Father!" "Jingfeng." Old Master Mu raised his hand slightly to stop him from speaking. He glanced at him and said, "I've already decided on this matter. This is old ancestors' order. It's not something you or I can casually change." Mu Jingfeng clenched his fists tightly, trying his best to restrain his trembling anger. "Father, but you saw it too. What kind of attitude was that? She simply criticized our entire Mu family from top to bottom until we're completely worthless." Third Elder Mu, Jingyuan, couldn't help but interject coldly. Could it be that what she said was wrong? A plate of loose sand. Mu Jingyuan turned around and left as well. Only a group of furious elders, as well as Mu Jingxing and the rest, who were so angry that their entire bodies hurt, were left behind. As for Mu Xingchen, he had already silently stood up and walked to the door when his sister flared up. After his sister left, he had already left with her. At this moment, the 2 siblings were walking to the Mu family's mountain entrance and conversing softly. "Sister, you should reconsider," Mu Xingchen said with a wry smile. "Although the Mu family has indeed been in a mess these years, the Mu family is still very powerful. Although the old ancestor has placed such high hopes on you, why don't talk about it, big brother?" Arbor wrinkled his little nose, looking unhappy. "That old man tricked me. He said that he would give Chaoyang restaurant to me, that he would not take a single cent, and that he would definitely not give me any missions. Look, he's already asking me for a reward. What a shameless old man, a big liar." Sir Jojo angrily turned his little head away and walked towards the Mu family's mountain gate. "I don't care about your family's matters. A bunch of useless things and a bunch of idiots who only know how to eat and do nothing." With that, Arbor looked at his elder brother sympathetically. "Big brother, look at the elders in your family. Other than that elder Dao, who had at least entered the yellow-grade Great Symbol Master realm, what kind of people were the rest of them? You can't even compare to the Mu family of a side branch. It must have been hard for Big Brother to stay in such a house all these years. As a genius, there were many things that he had to do. Normally, he must have been ordered around by those useless elders. In the Mu family, The Elders Guild was considered to be an existence that transcended the family members. Huh. As Xiao Mu spoke, she revealed a disdainful expression, evidently looking down on the Mu clan's council of elders to the extreme. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but sigh. He didn't know what to say to change his little sister's opinion. Chapter 36:18. His little sister's originally expressionless face was now filled with blatant disdain. Mu Xingqian really felt a bit uncomfortable when he saw this. The enmity between his little sister and the Mu family really couldn't be easily resolved in a short period of time. All right? It must have been difficult for the old ancestor to come up with such a rotten idea, insisting that his little sister take over the Mu family and become the next family head. Not only was this a slap to his father, Mu Jingfeng's face, but it was also a slap to the faces of all the Mu family's disciples. The Mu family's elders naturally wouldn't allow a little girl to lead their Mu family, although the old patriarch was there to suppress them. After all, suppressing them for a while was suppressing them, but couldn't be suppressing them forever. Arbor looked up at his elder brother and harumphed. What's the use of having a bunch of good-for-nothings? Mu Xingqian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He couldn't help but rub his little sister's head and chuckle helplessly. Okay, then let's not talk about this. Jojo, before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a sharp cry. Arbor. Following the sound of hurried, rolling wheels, it was Concubine Sure, who appeared extremely haggard in a wheelchair. It had been a long time since he last saw this woman at New South Garden. He didn't know if this woman had been enlightened recently, but she had been very well behaved and staying in her own court. She ate vegetarian and recited Buddhist scriptures, as if she had converted to Buddhism, as if she was completely aloof from worldly affairs. Arbor swept a glance at her, his expression indifferent, but he didn't speak first. Instead, he waited for the flustered and exasperated Shi Huixin to speak first. She must have come because of the banishment of her two daughters. Arbor didn't even need to guess to know why this Shi Huixin had come. Shi Huixin hurriedly turned her wheelchair to Arbor. She struggled to sit up straight in the wheelchair and moved her body to the ground. The wheelchair lost its gravity and instantly tilted to the side. Shi Huixin fell to the ground and repeatedly kowtowed to Arbor, crying out in a tearful voice, Crown Princess, I beg you, please let my two daughters go. They didn't do anything outrageous to offend you. They are so insignificant and lowly. You are the Crown Princess. Why must you be so calculative with two concubine daughters and refuse to forgive them? Mu Xingqian stared coldly at Shi Huixin and said indifferently, Concubine Shi, what are you doing here? This matter had nothing to do with his sister. The decision to send Mu Royin and Mu Royun to the branch family for training was made by the elder ancestor. It was also grandfather who agreed to it. It has nothing to do with sister at all. Shi Huixin's face twisted in an instant. Her legs were inconvenient, so she could only crawl forward a few steps and try her best to grab Arbor's little foot. Crown Princess, please forgive Royin and Royun. I only have these two daughters. You can't destroy them both. They are only your two concubine sisters. They have been spoiled by me since they were young. They don't have any ability and can't fight with you. Let them go. Don't banish them out of the imperial capital. Mu Xingqian's expression instantly turned even uglier. A concubine mother was kneeling and crying for mercy, begging Jojo to let go of his two concubine sisters. It made it seem like Jojo had really persecuted his two concubine sisters. Chapter 36:19. What good would this reputation do if it were to spread? This Shi Huixin was truly a source of disaster. Murderous intent flashed across his eyes as he said coldly, Aunt Shi, if you still don't get up, I'll get someone to carry you out. Shi Huixin's outstretched claws naturally failed to grab Arbor's little feet as she wished. Xiao Mu took a step back and expressionlessly looked down at Concubine Shi. She said dryly, Concubine Shi, you should have heard eldest brother's words just now. Your two daughters' fate has nothing to do with me. No, no, it's not like that. Concubine Sure had set her sights on Xiao Mu, so she quickly crawled forward and kowtowed repeatedly. She cried out mournfully, Crown Prince Consort, as long as you open your mouth to forgive the two of them, I believe that old Sir will definitely deal with this matter at his discretion. In the end, Sure Huixin was threatening and enticing her to plead with the old master. How hilarious! Where did this Sure Huixin get the nerve to think that she, Arbor, would be so foolish as to plead with the old master? Just for Mu Ruyin and Mu Royun, that pair of brainless sisters? She even had to sell her face to plead with the old master? Ha! Arbor couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Do you think that if you cry in front of me, I will definitely be led by the nose by you because I want to gain a good reputation? Arbor said coldly to Sure Huixin. Do you know that in the entire sovereign capital, no one dares to spread rumors about the crown princess? Don't do such a senseless thing. Arbor said coldly. Your two daughters were sent away by the old master's order. It has nothing to do with me. I also won't plead with the old master for your daughters. After all, me and them, ha! She ended the conversation with a mocking laugh. She walked around Sure Huixin and was about to walk forward. A vicious glint flashed across Sure Huixin's eyes as she cried out sternly, Didn't you want to know who secretly colluded with the Shuntian Prefecture's mansion lord and went to the Lower Star region to harm you and your daughter? You know very well that this is definitely not something I can do. Sure Huixin screamed. I know who it is. I know who Shuntian Prefecture's Prefecture Lord Gung Pengcheng is truly working for. As long as you're willing to plead on my two daughters' behalf and allow them to stay in the imperial capital, I can tell you. Sure Huixin screamed with a stiff neck. His eyes were filled with resentment and desperation for the last fight. She was betting on what Arbor was thinking. Her two daughters carried everything she relied on in this life. If they were sent to a remote branch family, it would be very difficult for her to see them again in the future when she wanted to return to the capital. How could she let such a thing happen? Just like this, Xiao Mu's pitch-black eyes stared unblinkingly at Sure Huixin. It was as if he was looking into the depths of her soul. Sure Huixin couldn't help but tremble slightly. Speak. Arbor stared coldly at the woman. Tell me everything you know. Do you think the Shuntian Prefecture's mansion lord is truly protecting me? No. Sure Huixin's eyes revealed traces of anger. Feng Lan, the Shuntian Prefecture's mansion lord's wife, identified you before she died, Arbor said coldly. You should know Feng Lan. Chapter 3620. After all, you're from the same organization, so you should have come into contact with each other. What organization? Don't spout nonsense. Now that things have come to this, it'll be pointless if you don't tell the truth. Arbor's cold gaze swept over her. Sure Huixin, you dare to say that you're not from Tianyin? If you weren't targeting me on purpose, why did you already welcome Xiao Ingshun back when I first came to the Divine Province, planning to replace my identity and ruin my reputation? Then, you deliberately brought Xiao Ingshun to General Zhong Li's estate. Wasn't it to mislead everyone into thinking that Xiao Ingshun, who was impersonating Mu Qiao, was such an unpresentable thing? Shuntian Prefecture's prefecture lord said it before. He's also helping someone, and the person he's helping doesn't want me to have a good life. And it's precisely because every single thing you've done these past few days, every single one of them, that you don't want me to have a good life. Wasn't it also you who incited Juxian and Mei Xian to climb through the window and lay their hands on my husband? And that second-rank lass, Xiao Xing. She turned into a corpse in the woodshed. I've come into contact with you before, but you still don't admit that you're from Tianyin? Other than Tianyin, I can't think of anyone else who can turn a perfectly fine person into a corpse in a matter of minutes. Don't you think so, concubine Sure? When Arbor said these words, he didn't look at his big brother's shocked gaze. Mu Xingqian stared coldly at concubine Sure, who was kneeling on the ground, and kicked her hard. Is what my sister said true? You really are from Tianyin. You're from Tianyin. Tianyin's people had already infiltrated their Mu family? Do you think I did all this? Sure Huixin screamed and suddenly straightened her body. Her head was raised high, and her pair of inverted dead fish eyes stared lifelessly at Arbor. She said word by word, "Feng Lan, that slut, does whatever she says count? How many times have I met Gung Pengcheng? How did it reach the point where Gung Pengcheng would die for me? She's slandering me. Gung Pengcheng is also slandering me. You're just a little concubine mother of the Mu family. You don't step out of the house all day long. How could you have met the Shuntian Prefecture's prefecture lord? This is where the biggest problem lies. You really are one of Tian Yun's people." Arbor pointed at Shi Huixin, who was lying on the ground, and said coldly, "Before this, she only had her suspicions and wasn't sure. Now, he could truly confirm that Shi Huixin belonged to the heavens." Shi Hui Xin. Xiaomu uttered these 3 words coldly. "Tell me everything you know, and I guarantee that your 2 daughters will live well for the rest of their lives." Shi Huixin's body trembled slightly. Then she raised her head and glared at Arbor. "Gung Pengcheng is a very careful person. I only heard that the person he admires is the Hall Master of Flying Heaven. However, the people in the organization usually don't have many opportunities to meet each other. That's why I don't know who the Soaring Heavens Hall's Hall Master is." When Shi Huixin said this, she suddenly spasmed on the ground as if she had gone mad. Just as Mu Xingqian was about to rush forward, Qiao Mu tugged at him and pulled him back 2 steps. Shi Huixin knelt on the ground and scratched her face with all her might, letting out terrifying screams. Chapter 36:21. Shi Huixin's appearance made one's heart tremble. At this very moment, she no longer had the appearance of a noble lady. Her hand were covering her face as she fell sideways on the ground. Her body was curled up as she kept twitching and trembling, as if she had suddenly contracted some sort of illness. This was the main passageway through the Mu family's mountain gate, so Shi Huixin's unforeseen event naturally attracted many people's attention. Mu Jingfeng, Mu Jingxing, and the rest, who came after hearing the news, were even more shocked as they glared at Arbor. Mu Jingfeng sternly shouted, "Arbor, you actually treat your concubine mother like this? What kind of enmity or grudge do you have for you to be so vicious to a woman like her? Father, don't spout nonsense and venomous slander." Mu Xingqian immediately retorted in dissatisfaction. "Little sister and I just arrived here when concubine mother ran over on her own. She suddenly became like this while we were talking. What does it have to do with little sister?" When Mu Jingfeng saw how his son was defending Arbor in every way, he immediately rebuked unfilial son. He actually said that his own father was venomous slandering. Was this something a son should say? Arbor wasn't angry, though. She had long known what kind of person Mu Jingfeng was. Once something happened, if he wasn't blaming this, he would blame that. There wasn't the slightest bit of father-daughter kinship in his heart. For such a selfish man, he probably only had himself in his heart. "Madam, watch your step." Servant Song Lu also rushed to the scene while supporting Mu Qingya, who had rushed all the way here. At this moment, the road leading to the Mu family's mountain gate was filled with a group of Mu family disciples, as well as many servants who didn't mind the commotion. These people hid far away in the corners, not daring to approach, but their eyes flickered with gossipy glints. Concubine sure went to talk to the crown princess about something, but in the end, this tragic scene suddenly appeared. Everyone naturally didn't believe that this matter had nothing to do with the crown princess. Arbor couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with them. He waved his hand and said to his elder brother, "Big brother, let's go." Mu Xingqian nodded in agreement. He also felt that talking to these people was like playing the lute to a cow. It was impossible to make things clear. Since they like to think too much, then just let them be. After making up his mind, Mu Xingqian was about to leave with Arbor. However, how could Mu Jingfeng let them leave just like that? Mu Jingfeng waved his hand in front of Qiao Mu's face as he declared with a darkened face, "Qiao Mu, in any case, you are still a child of the Mu clan. Don't rely on your status as the crown prince consort to do as you please. You poisoned your own concubine mother. Even if this matter is reported to His Majesty, you still won't be able to justify it. Hand over the antidote, Mu Jingfeng growled. Master. Mu Qingya hurriedly stepped forward and stood in front of Arbor. She shook her head and said, Jojo won't do that. There must be something fishy about concubine Shi's matter. You're still speaking up for her at a time like this? Mu Jingfeng glared at Mu Qingya angrily. Just now, the three of them were talking here. Everyone saw it with their own eyes. Everything was fine, but concubine Shi suddenly became like this. Ah, eldest uncle, look. Mu Ruian couldn't help but exclaim. Everyone turned to look, and they couldn't help but be startled. They saw that concubine Shi abruptly put down her hand that was covering her face. Chapter 36:22. This time, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. They saw that concubine Shi's face had already completely rotted, oozing a terrifying, thick juice. As if it had been corroded by some kind of venom, her face was disappearing inch by inch in this liquid. Mu Jingfeng couldn't help but avert his gaze in disgust. He turned to glare at Arbor and shouted, Arbor, you really have such vicious thoughts, such vicious methods. No matter what, your concubine Shi is still your concubine mother and your elder. Even if your words were a bit offensive, you can't use such methods to harm a woman with a low cultivation. Do you still have a conscience? Do you have any sense of shame? Mu Jingfeng shouted angrily, not caring about how many people were present. Currently, he was glaring at Arbor with eyes that seemed to have been dipped in venom. It was as if he wasn't staring at his daughter, but at his life's most deadly enemy. Arbor, however, coldly swept a glance at him and sneered. Then, do you want to kill me? Sister. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but panic. His sister's indifferent attitude was as if she was casually accused by her father and couldn't be bothered to defend herself. As her eldest brother, he naturally didn't want to see his sister suffer such a great injustice and be forced to bear the infamy of killing her concubine mother. Father, you'd better be careful with your words and actions. Don't make wild accusations, Mu Xingqian angrily said. We siblings only spoke with concubine Shi for a few minutes. During this time, sister didn't even touch concubine Shi's finger. For concubine Shi to be like this, it must be because she was already poisoned long ago. It just so happened that the poison acted up right in front of us. Sophistry. Mu Jingfeng angrily berated. Xingqian, you've disappointed father too much. You're the Mu family's young master, the Mu family's future hope. If it weren't for the ancestors' previous matter, the entire Mu family would have been inherited by you in the future. Mu Xingqian's gaze turned extremely cold as he coldly stared at his father in front of him. He sneered, Father, you don't need to sow discord. I'm not like you, having a strong desire to control the Mu family's power. I'm a member of the Mu family. If the Mu family is in trouble, I will not shirk my responsibility. However, I don't care about the position of patriarch at all. Therefore, I have no objections to younger sister becoming the patriarch, Mu Xingqian said with a flat tone and a cold expression. This father of his was too vicious. For the sake of the patriarch's position, he actually did not hesitate to sow discord between him and his younger sister. Did he think that by promising the position of the young master and the position of the future patriarch, he would be able to make him fearful of his sister and fight with his sister for the position of the patriarch, so that he, as the father, could benefit from it? He was simply too naive. Mu Jingfeng's eyes emitted a cold and venomous glint as he stared fixedly at his son for a long time before bursting into laughter. You're overthinking things, Stardust. Seeing that he was unable to provoke his son, Mu Jingfeng could not help but frown and coldly say, A real man must act with a clear conscience. Although she is your biological sister, it is very unwise to lie and deceive your relatives and elders for her sake. The corners of Arbor's lips curled up mockingly. Look, this was her biological father, racking his brains to pin the infamy of poisoning a concubine mother on her. Chapter 36:23. What a great father he was. Aoyi. Arbor calmly called out to him. Aoyi giggled as he flashed to her side. Crown Princess. He turned to look at Mu Jingfeng's group and gave them a sympathetic look. Family head Mu, Oh no, former family head Mu. If you can prove that this matter has nothing to do with the crown princess, shouldn't you kneel down and admit your mistake? HM? Mu Jingfeng's old face abruptly flushed red as he sneered. Prove it first before talking about anything else. Aoyi tilted his head and giggled as he took out a jade talisman from his pocket. Everyone looked carefully. What is this? This is a jade talisman with an image. It's also an earth-rank talisman that only our crown princess can make. The moment Aoyi took out the jade talisman, Mu Jingfeng's expression involuntarily changed. Ao, you did not make everyone wait for long, nor did he give them a chance to react. He directly projected the image from the jade talisman for everyone to see. In it, concubine Shi came over in a wheelchair and immediately knelt on the ground to plead for leniency. Everyone could clearly hear the conversation between the two sides, and the image was also very clear. Everyone could not help but sneak a glance at the expressionless little crown princess. Just how distrustful was the crown princess to the Mu family? She always had her subordinates carry jade talismans with them at all times. As long as the Mu family approached, they would immediately record everything. When the time came, they would have a basis to speak on. From the start, she felt that there were no good people in the Mu family, so she must have something to protect herself when she was outside. What was there to be unclear about in this video? After the crown princess exposed Shi Huixin's identity as a member of Tianyun, Shi Huixin suddenly fell to the ground and covered her face as she cried out in pain. From beginning to end, the crown princess was just as the Mu family's eldest young master had said. She did not even touch Shi Huixin with a single finger, so how could she have poisoned her? Everyone silently glanced at Mu Jingfeng, who was still spouting nonsense just now. At this moment, he had already fallen silent, his expression cold and not saying a word. Aoyi raised his chin slightly, and several youths in black immediately jumped down from the tree and surrounded Mu Jingfeng. Two of them even kicked his knees, as if they were determined to make him kneel and apologize. What are you all doing? Mu Jingfeng flew into a rage. The members of the Mu family also started to make a ruckus. Even if Mu Jingfeng had been stripped of his position as the head of the household, he was still the former head of the Mu family. Their Mu family was humiliated like this. No one would be able to feel proud. Naturally, they couldn't just sit by and watch. Mu Qingya even pounced forward and tightly grasped Mu Jingfeng's arm. She turned to look at Xiao Qiao and implored mournfully, "Xiao Qiao, your father didn't mean to say those words just now. Yeah, he didn't do it on purpose. He did it on purpose, using every possible method to pin the crime of poisoning my concubine mother onto this crown prince consort. To be slandered by a subject, does this crown princess have a reason to teach him a lesson?" "Crown princess!" Mu Qingya shrieked and hurriedly stood in front of Mu Jingfeng. "Heaven, earth, sovereign, family, and master are indeed inviolable. But the head of the household is still your biological father. Why, if you insist on going against the law, why you'll be punished by the heavens. I don't want to see you get struck by lightning. It's not worth it." Mu Qingya shook her head vigorously at Arbor with tears in her eyes. Chapter 36:24. Arbor suddenly laughed. Everyone was stunned by this smile. That was because this child rarely smiled. Ever since she returned to the Mu family, she had never smiled at anyone from the Mu family. However, she suddenly laughed today, causing everyone's hair to stand on end. Heavenly punishment? If the heavens truly have a spirit, such a filthy and ugly soul should have died 10,000 times already, no? Her ice-cold voice was like the unmelted snow in the abyss, coldly drenching everyone's hearts. Let's give it a try. If the heavens come to strike me, I'll endure it. If it doesn't come, ha 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 ha. Arbor laughed out loud with a wanton expression. She raised her small hand slightly, and the crowd of black-clothed youths pressed down on Mu Jingfeng, who was struggling to move his limbs, and drag him to the side of a tree. After tying this fellow to the tree, Aoyi pulled out a shiny black whip and personally punished him. According to the laws of China, Those who slander and defame the imperial family will be whipped 100 times as a warning to others. Smack! A whip as swift as lightning landed heavily on Mu Jingfeng's body. Ah! Mu Jingfeng howled on the spot. His eyes revealed traces of cold light as he glared at Arbor. You ordered your father to be whipped. Mu Jingfeng's muscles trembled nonstop. He tried his best to pull out a defensive talisman from his inner world, but Ao Yi restrained him. You devoid of conscience, you evil woman. The heavens won't let you off. Mu Jingfeng angrily rebuked. As he spoke, the sky seemed as though it was really going to rain lightning. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and a faint rumble of thunder could be heard. The heavens. Arbor sneered and slowly raised his head to look at the rolling dark clouds in the sky. Let's see who it will strike. In the blink of an eye, a rolling thunder suddenly fell from the clouds and abruptly landed on the stupefied Mu Jingfeng, causing all the hair on his body to stand on end. Following that, several whips landed, giving him no time to react. Mu Jingfeng could only let out a shrill scream. Arbor laughed heartily as he calmly looked at the man in front of him. His gaze slowly turned cold and resolute. Mu Jingfeng, now you know. Who does the heavenly Tao want to destroy? It's because of you, the one who disregarded the emperor, the one who obliterated family and humanity, the one who's worse than pigs and dogs' trash. Jojo, don't Jojo. Mu Qingyao wanted to rush forward, but Song Lu and Nanny Chio grabbed her arms tightly. Heavens, even with master's cultivation, he was almost unable to withstand the lightning and whips, let alone a defenseless person like Madame. Xiao Mu expressionlessly glanced at Mu Qingyao, who was displaying a deeply affectionate expression, and pursed her lips. So what if such an ignorant and cowardly man dies? You could just remarry. What's there to be reluctant about? Everyone stared at her, dumbfounded. He felt that the young lady did not see Mu Jingfeng as her father at all. She did not even see him as a human being. So what if he dies? She even instigated Mu Qingyao to remarry. Was this something a daughter should say? Arbor swept a glance at everyone before turning to walk out of the crowd. He coldly lowered his head to look at Shi Huixin, who had already turned into a puddle of water, and coldly instructed, "Go search concubine Shi's courtyard. Didn't she say that she left something good for me?" Everyone present looked at the young lady before them with various expressions. Chapter 36-25. This time, all of them once again experienced the little lady's heart as cold as iron. At the same time, they also looked strangely at concubine Shi's pus. In the video, just now, concubine Shi admitted that she was a member of Heavenly Fate, but they didn't hear concubine Shi say that she left behind evidence for the crown princess. Could it be that the crown princess was still on guard? The video she showed them was simply only a part of it, and some important information was still missing, so it wasn't exposed in front of people at all. Several elders stood on the side and glanced hesitantly at Arbor. At this very moment, no one dared to obstruct Arbor's departure, unless they really wanted to die themselves. By the time Mu Tsong rushed over, Mu Jingfeng had already been whipped 100 times, and 3 thunderbolts fell from the sky, completely knocking Mu Jingfeng out. With lingering fear, everyone couldn't help but sympathize with the previous family head. Because Arbor still had things to do, he temporarily returned to the Mu family's residence, Jade Orchid Court. As soon as he entered, his expression completely darkened. Mu Xingqian also said gravely, "Jojo, looks like Heavenly Fate's people were already on guard and made the first move. The poison in concubine Shi's body can actually be remotely controlled? This means it's not poison." Arbor interrupted his older brother gravely. "It's a talisman. It's one of the highest standards among sickness talismans and can cause a person to die and rot instantly." A sharp glint flashed through Sir Jojo's eyes. "I know that there's always been a great talisman master in Heavenly Fate, and this talisman master might not just be a talisman master. He's a poison master. These people appeared on Seacone Planet a long time ago. The 3 pygmy brothers all know how to use poison, especially that black cat brother. He once gave Mu Qianqian a soul-swapping talisman. After arriving at Shuntian Prefecture, Clear Sky Faction's disciple Tan Fa was a yellow-ranked talisman master during the entrance exam of a top-notch academy. He and that Fangu both belong to Clear Sky Faction. At the same time, they both have transportation talisman matrices. None of them want me to have a good life. All of them want me to live a life worse than death. In the past, I even suspected that Mu Jingrue wanted to deal with me. Now, it seems that the teleportation array might not belong to your Mu family. The Heavenly Fate Empire's foundation is extremely deep. It's not strange that it has a teleportation array. This Grand Charm Master and Poison Master must be closely related to the Black Cat and Tan Fa. During the 6 Prefectures Academy tournament, it was his disciple who poisoned Sha Gua and his group with puppet charms. Although these small fries were dealt with by me and Lotus at that time. However, this Poison Master has always been hiding behind the scenes. Even now, we still don't know who he is. He's been hiding all this time, secretly cultivating batch after batch of talisman talents for Tianyin. Those charm masters of the Clear Sky sect were also created by him, which means that he has a deep relationship with the Clear Sky sect. Although the Clear Sky sect doesn't belong to the Heavenly Fate Empire, there's bound to be some kind of connection between them. It's just that we don't know about it yet. When Mu Xingqian heard about the Heavenly Fate Empire, he had also heard Mo Lien mention the ins and outs of the matter. Although he might not be clear about the details, he could still understand the gist of it. This Clear Sky sect was determined to make things difficult for Jojo. Now, it seemed that the Clear Sky sect was indeed closely related to the Heavenly Fate Empire. Chapter 3626. Perhaps the Clear Sky sect is a branch of the Heavenly Fate organization. Or perhaps the Clear Sky sect is a faction controlled by an important member of the Heavenly Fate organization. Xiaomu turned her head and nodded at her eldest brother. Her eyes flickered as she stared deeply at Mu Xingqian and suddenly changed the topic. Big brother, what evidence do you think Shi Huixin left for us? Do you think we can trust her words? Mu Xingqian's expression didn't change at all. He stared at Arbor's bright eyes for less than half a second before answering logically. I think we can trust her. Since she wanted to protect her 2 daughters, of course, she wouldn't dare to hide anything from us. After all, Jojo can control the future and life of her 2 daughters, can't he? Arbor nodded coldly and sat down with one hand on the table, expressing her complete agreement with her brother's words. Clang! She threw a few pieces of broken jade talismans on the table and looked at them with cold eyes. She muttered, "The lightning guiding talisman is quite powerful. Mu Jingfeng, you deserve this." Given Mu Jingfeng's strength, the 3 bolts of lightning would definitely destroy more than half of his meridians. If he wanted to slowly recover, it would take at least a year and a half. Not everyone was like Jojo, able to withstand lightning strikes and be hit by the heavens not long after. Yi hurried over with a group of people. He cupped his hands at Arbor and said, "We've found the crown princess." Xiao Mu's face warmed, and she nodded lightly at him. She extended her small hand to accept the crumpled letter Yi handed over. After skimming through it, Arbor's expression turned serious. She handed the letter to Yi. "Go and make the arrangements. We must make contact with her tonight." "Yes." Yi bowed with the letter in his hand. He waved his hand and hurriedly led a group of purple forest guards out to make the arrangements. "Crown Princess, are you not going back to the Qiao residence tonight?" Kaishio asked in a low voice. Arbor nodded solemnly. "Send a message to my mother. I have something important to do tonight." Inside the Golden Garden Mu, Jingfeng sprawled on the brocade couch like a puddle of mud, groaning for quite a while. It was almost 10 o'clock in the evening, and the setting sun shone through the window, making people a little dizzy. Mu Jingfeng reached out to punch the couch as he yelled angrily. "Where are they? Where did they all die to?" "Master." Nanny Chio hurriedly ran in with the 2 young maidservants. Song Lu was holding a bowl of freshly brewed medicine. "Master, let me do it." Mu Qingya walked in from the door and nodded at Nanny Chio and the others. "You may leave first." "Madam, go down," Mu Qingya ordered. Nanny Chio and the others looked at each other, then hurriedly put down the medicine bowl and left one by one. Only the groaning Mu Jingfeng and the silent Mu Qingya were left in the room. Water. I want to drink water. Water. Mu Jingfeng turned his head with all his might and glared at his wife. Could it be that his wife was still in shock from what happened earlier? Even her movements were slower than usual, which displeased Mu Jingfeng. Master, the water is here. Mu Qingya brought a bowl of tea to Mu Jingfeng's lips. Mu Jingfeng took a sip from the tea bowl and yelled as he forcefully swatted away Mu Qingya's hand. The teacup fell to the ground with a thud. Chapter 36:27. Mu Jingfeng's sharp reprimand abruptly rang out in the room. Wicked woman, this water is so hot. How could someone drink it? Mu Qingya sighed and got up to pour another cup. She brought it to Mu Jingfeng and carefully blew on it. Old master, it's already cold. Mu Jingfeng leaned over and carefully took a sip. Feeling that there was no problem, he gulped down 2 mouthfuls. This unfilial daughter. Right now, half of his meridians were crippled, and he was paralyzed like a cripple. He didn't even have the slightest bit of strength in his limbs. So how could he not be furious? Old master, it's also because you've overdone it that Xiao resisted. Mu Qingya sighed. She picked up the medicine bowl at the side and gracefully walked to Mu Jingfeng's side. She half helped him up and leaned him against the couch. Holding a spoon in one hand, she meticulously stirred the medicinal concoction in the bowl with a very focused gaze. However, Mu Jingfeng was dissatisfied with her defending arbor again. He couldn't help but angrily say, "You've always been protecting her and smoothing things over for her. You've never been this attentive to Rochuan before." Mu Qingya glanced at him and concentrated on stirring the medicinal concoction in her hand. "Old master, I know you're angry. If you didn't say that Jojo poisoned concubine sure earlier, Jojo wouldn't have ordered you to be whipped because of this. You're still talking." Mu Jingfeng slapped the couch and angrily roared, "Even if I, as her father, wronged her, I didn't do it on purpose. I just didn't understand the situation for a moment. Couldn't she have explained it to me properly? Why did she have to come up and whip me? Is this the attitude a daughter should have toward her father? Drink the medicine." Mu Qingya held the medicine bowl and sat beside him. However, Mu Jingfeng raised half of his body and coldly said, "I'm not drinking it. What's the use of drinking this medicine? It can't heal my meridians, can it? Go invite that god-tier alchemist, Alchemist Dan, over tomorrow. Have her treat me. Alchemist Dan reportedly left the city a while ago and hasn't returned." "What? Then go invite another alchemist over for me. No matter how much it costs, you must heal my messed up meridians as soon as possible. You should drink this medicine first." "I said I won't drink. Take it away." Mu Jingfeng impatiently pushed her hand away. Mu Qingya was holding a bowl of medicine, and when he pushed it, most of the medicine spilled out onto her palm. Although it wasn't very hot, Mu Qingya's face gradually darkened. She suddenly raised her hand and threw the remaining half bowl of medicine, along with the other bowl, at Mu Jingfeng's face. Mu Jingfeng yelled and waved his hand to wipe the medicine off his face before throwing the bowl on the floor. After the crisp sound, Mu Jingfeng glared at Mu Qingya, his eyes almost spitting fire. "Bitch, are you trying to rebel? How dare you treat me like this? Are you looking down on me now? Although I've been stripped of my position as the patriarch and half of my meridians have been crippled, I'm still not someone a slut like you can wantonly trample on. Mu Jingfeng, you're always like this. If anything happens, it's someone else's fault. Once something doesn't go your way, you'll immediately adopt this vile attitude. Do you think you're still that high and mighty patriarch, Mu? Do you think you still have a chance to turn things around in this lifetime?" Chapter 36:28. I worked so hard to take care of you, yet you don't know how to be grateful and even treat me like this. Mu Jingfeng, you're truly disgusting. Mu Qingya suddenly said expressionlessly. These words were clearly not something the current Mu family head could bear. All these years, what he was most proud of was becoming the Mu family's head and having a beautiful wife in his arms. Even though he was nearing his 40s, he was still elegant and graceful. Which woman would not praise him as a handsome man when they saw him? In this world, there was really no one who would say that he was truly disgusting. Mu Jingfeng stared intently at Mu Qingya in front of him, as if wanting to see a trace of other emotions in her eyes. Unfortunately, there was nothing, other than a few traces of disdain, indifference, and mockery toward him in her eyes. There was really nothing else. But how could he see these emotions in the eyes of his wife, who had been with him for so many years? For a moment, Mu Jingfeng really suspected that he might have gone crazy and was seeing things. Qingya, she had never, ever revealed such emotions toward him. In his heart, Qingya had always been a docile, gentle, and obedient woman. She was very perfect and completely met his requirements for a wife. He did not like women who were too strong. He, Mu Jingfeng, liked women like Qingya who were gentle, tactful, and obedient to him for the rest of their lives. Speaking of which, Long Qian's temperament was the complete opposite. She was strong-willed, tenacious, and liked to handle everything alone. She was so strong that he almost felt a kind of pressure. And now, how did his wife, who had always been perfect, suddenly become like this? Was the mockery in her eyes really directed at him? Mu Jingfeng? Qingya. Mu Jingfeng could not help but call out. He forced himself to straighten his body and suppress the anger in his heart with a perplexed expression. What's wrong with you? Mu Qingya seemed to have been provoked to a critical point by him, and all of a sudden, all of her emotions exploded. I said that you're disgusting. Don't you understand? Mu Qingya coldly stared at Mu Jingfeng and sternly shouted, I'm disgusted with you, Mu Jingfeng. I've always been disgusted with you all these years. You. Ever since the day you ruined my innocence, I've been disgusted with you all the time. Mu Jingfeng's eyes widened in shock as he looked at his wife in disbelief. You? What did you say? Disgusting? His wife, who had been with him for so many years, actually said that she was disgusting to him? On what basis? The slightly distorted face of the woman in front of him had completely overshadowed the gentle look on her face in the past. Gradually, he felt that the person in front of him had become very blurry and unfamiliar. Who are you? You're not my Qingya. Mu Qingya couldn't help but sneer at him. I've always been like this. Mu Jingfeng, you've always lived in your own world. You've never truly opened your eyes to clearly see the people around you. You're already in this state. Why are you still pretending to be a big shot in front of me? You might be a cripple in the future. Shut up. Mu Jingfeng angrily yelled, smashing a small wooden table beside him with a slap. Mu Qingya's expression changed slightly as she looked at the shattered pieces of the small table. She took a few steps back and coldly said to Mu Jingfeng, It's all your fault. Chapter 36:29. You vicious and heartless man. Serves you right that even your own daughter treats you this way. When I found out that you were engaged to someone else, I immediately distanced myself from you. I kept my distance from you. But even so, you still refused to let me off. You barged into my court, disregarded my wishes, and took me for your own. You made me bear your children. You made me bear the burden of the entire Mu family and all these trivial matters for so many years. You even made me earn money to support the family and help you take care of your harem of concubines. Why you all make me feel disgusted? Sometimes, I'm constantly thinking that if I had made a prompt decision back then and left this damn family, my life right now wouldn't be like it is now. Mu Jingfeng, do you know how much I hate and disgust you? A person like you is selfish and heartless. You only have your own interests in your eyes. You've lived in your own world all your life. You've never really thought about others. What right do you have to make others sincerely treat you like this? Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Mu Jingfeng screamed in shock, wishing that he could smash the bed into smithereens. Bitch. Mu Jingfeng struggled to get up from the bed, but his meridians were in a mess, and his limbs were not under his brain's control. The moment he moved, his entire body fell off the bed. He glared at Mu Qingya in front of him and suddenly took out a talisman with a flip of his hand, throwing it in her direction. Bitch, do all of you hate that you can't let me die? Fine, fine, fine. Since you don't want me to have an easy time, I'll make all of you not have an easy time either. Following this, Mu Jingfeng threw out a yellow talisman with all his might and shouted, "Activate the talisman." A ferocious attack from the talisman headed for Mu Qingya's chest. Nanny Chiu and the others, who had heard the commotion, hurriedly barged in and cried out in alarm as they rushed forward. Bang, 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 bang. The attack from the talisman knocked them away one by one, and by the time it landed on Mu Qingya's body, its attack power was already more or less depleted. Therefore, she didn't suffer any serious injuries. She only fell to the ground, and her face was pale with fright. Bitch, Mu Jingfeng angrily reprimanded. He slid to the ground and struggled to get up. Unfortunately, with his current strength, it seemed difficult to do so. Therefore, he crawled forward a few steps, struggled with all his might, and threw himself onto Mu Qingya. The man pinned Mu Qingya under his body and grabbed her neck with both hands. At this moment, Mu Jingfeng's face was flushed red, and his eyeballs were bulging out. It was as if his entire body was being roasted by a raging fire. He gripped Mu Qingya's throat tightly and shouted, "Bitch, you bitch! You actually said that I'm disgusted? Back then, weren't you the one who would smile gently and call me Brother Jingfeng every time you saw me? And you say you're not interested in me? Now you're saying this again? Saying that I'm disgusting. You're crazy for no reason." Ugh. Mu Qingya's throat was tightly gripped by this man's strong hand. Naturally, she couldn't help but cry out and struggle to breathe. Unfortunately, Mu Qingya didn't have the strength to truss a chicken. Chapter 3630. Even if Mu Jingfeng was seriously injured, with his cultivation, he wasn't someone a woman like her could easily break free from. Madam, madam, madam. Nanny Chiu struggled to get up, but the talisman earlier hurt her all over. She wanted to get up now, but she didn't have any strength left. Song Lu, who was at the side, had long fainted from the talisman's power. Someone come quickly. Master's gone crazy. Someone come and save madam." Nanny Chiu's shrill voice nearly broke through the roof. Mu Jingfeng's eyes were already red, and he clutched Mu Qingya's throat tightly as though he had lost all reason. He spat, "Bitch, you bitch! What did I do wrong to you? Why are you doing this to me? Just because I don't have the position of the family head? Just because I'm about to become a cripple? That's why you look down on me and even want to rebel against me? I'm telling you, Mu Qingya, don't even think about leaving me in this lifetime. You were my, Mu Jingfeng's, when you were alive, and when you die, you'll also become my, Mu Jingfeng's ghost." As he spoke, his eyes reddened, and he exerted more strength in his hands, as though he wanted to strangle Mu Qingya to death. Mu Qingya's face contorted as she glared at the man in front of her. Her eyes were fixated on him, and her expression was filled with hatred. The crown princess has arrived. At this moment, an announcement was suddenly heard, and it sounded like the sound of nature. In the room, Nanny Chiu's spirits were lifted, and she struggled to crawl toward the door with tears streaming down her face. As she crawled, she shouted loudly, crown princess, save me, crown princess." The little crown princess stepped through the door and immediately saw Mu Jingfeng, who was tightly pressed against Mu Qingya and had his hands tightly wrapped around her neck. This man was desperately clutching Mu Qingya's neck like a madman, as though he wanted to strangle her to death. Arbor's gaze changed slightly, and he coldly said, "Why aren't you going to pull them away?" "Yes." Tong nodded slightly and immediately stepped forward. He forcefully pulled away Mu Jingfeng, who was not letting go of Mu Qingya's neck. Cough, 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 cough. Mu Qingya heaved a sigh of relief. Her chest heaved up and down. She covered her throat and coughed violently, as if she was going to cough her lungs out. Song Lu and the other maidservants were also woken up by Kai Xiu, Kai Chi, and the others by pinching their philtrum. "Madam, madam." Song Lu and the others hurriedly crawled forward while sobbing. They all appeared to be in a very sorry state. There were still traces of blood on the corners of their lips. Perhaps they had suffered some internal injuries. I am fine. I'm fine. Mu Qingya forced a smile at them and coughed hoarsely. Arbor looked at them coldly. He glanced around, and his gaze fell on the broken porcelain on the ground. There was a complicated look in her eyes as she looked at Mu Qingya, who was sitting on the ground. There were still 10 distinct marks left on Mu Qingya's neck. It could be seen that Mu Jingfeng had put in a lot of effort back then and was bent on killing her. Arbor glanced at Mu Jingfeng, who was on the other side. At this moment, he was thrown to the side by Tong like trash. He was panting heavily, and his face and neck were red. Crown Princess, please save me. Nanny Chio lifted the corner of her skirt and crawled forward on her knees. She crawled to Arbor and kowtowed twice. Chapter 36-31. Crown Prince Consort. Lord suddenly went crazy and actually did such a vicious thing to Madam. Is there something wrong with his mind? When Mu Jingfeng noticed the young Crown Prince Consort's icy gaze on him, he couldn't help but shrink back. His entire body trembled, and he immediately shouted sternly, "You old hag, watch your words. Who are you saying has a mental problem? Who are you talking about? Hold it down," the little Crown Princess coldly ordered. Immediately, 2 youths rushed forward and firmly grabbed Mu Jingfeng's shoulders, pressing him to the ground. "Search the front and rear courtyards. Don't miss a single inch of this place," Arbor coldly ordered. "You unfilial daughter, unfilial daughter. What are you doing? What are you doing?" Mu Jingfeng shrieked and pounded the ground with all his might. He angrily roared, "You dare to treat your own biological father like this? Aren't you afraid of suffering divine retribution?" "Divine retribution? Let it come. See if it comes or not." Arbor coldly interrupted Mu Jingfeng's words and said impatiently, "Shut up. The Crown Princess told you to shut up. Shut up." Tong abruptly grabbed Mu Jingfeng's neck, instantly silencing him. Mu Jingfeng did not expect that a few minutes ago he was still holding Mu Qingya's neck to flaunt his authority, but now it was his turn. His eyes were full of resentment as he stared fixedly at Arbor, as though he could dismember him into 1,000 pieces just by staring at him like this. "Invite a physician over to take a look at family head Mu and send him to his room. Don't let him come out to scare people if there's nothing important," Arbor indifferently ordered. "Arbor, you unfilial daughter, you will suffer divine retribution. You dare to imprison your own father? Arbor, you unfilial daughter, you..." Mu Jingfeng was in a state of madness as he was shoved into the inner room with disheveled hair. The wooden door slammed shut, causing Mu Qingya and the rest in the outer room to be endlessly alarmed. Everyone raised their heads in fear and looked carefully at the expressionless Crown Princess. She was so resolute and decisive, as though she did not have the slightest bit of affection for Mu Jingfeng. At this moment, Arbor's eyes were fixed on Mu Qingya's face. She looked at her as if she wanted her gaze to bore a hole in her face, or even a hole in her heart, so that she could see clearly what this woman was thinking. Although she did not see what had happened in the room just now, when she entered the Gilded Garden, the quarrel between the two of them had reached its climax. Even if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he had heard it with his own ears. With her intelligence, she could naturally guess why Mu Qingya had a falling out with Mu Jingfeng. Mu Qingya actually hated this man ever since the day she was forcefully taken by Mu Jingfeng. She had hidden it so well all these years, but she had always suppressed this hatred in the deepest part of her heart. This woman was really puzzling. Arbor stared at her. The little Crown Princess's gaze made Mu Qingya's heart palpitate uneasily. She coughed hard a few times and raised her head to look at Arbor. "Crown Princess, thank you for saving my life. Why do you hate Mu Jingfeng so much?" Arbor felt that instead of suppressing some doubts in her heart, it was better to ask her personally. Mu Qingya's expression instantly changed. "I don't hate family head." Chapter 36-32. Arbor shook his head. "I heard everything. You said that you've always been disgusted by him." Mu Qingya's expression instantly turned even uglier, and it even became slightly distorted and unnatural. She was, after all, Xiao Mu's stepmother in name. It was truly a bit difficult for her to talk about these romantic affairs of the past in front of a child. Why? Arbor didn't want to let her off just like that. He continued to question her coldly, but his gaze lingered on her face, not letting go of even the slightest change in her expression. Muqingya bit her lip hard. I naturally hate him. He already has Sister Chuyun. Yet, he still pesters me endlessly. I'm already far enough away from him. Back then, I went out to train and do missions all day long just to be able to stay away from him. Who knew? Who knew that this deranged man would actually use alcohol to vent his anger after that incident? Sister Chuyun's heart must have felt terrible. She's such a strong-willed person. She'll only suppress her grievances in the bottom of her heart and won't say anything. Muqingya coldly said, Mu Jingfeng is truly an extremely disgusting person. If he hadn't shrunk his hands and become as timid as a mouse, how could Sister have left the Mu family and gone to save her own relative alone? After that, how could we possibly have lost contact with Sister? It's all this man's fault. It's him. It's him who harmed Sister. It's him. He doesn't deserve to be a husband at all. He doesn't deserve to be the head of the Mu family. Today, the patriarch stripped him of his position as the head of the family, struck by lightning as punishment, and half of his meridians were destroyed. It's all his own fault. If Sister's spirit is in heaven, she should feel gratified. Arbor kept staring at her. She realized that when Muqingya mentioned Mu Jingfeng, her eyes seemed to be able to quench out a poisonous glint, but when she mentioned her mother, Long Chuyun, the radiance and gentleness in her eyes couldn't be concealed at all. It really didn't seem like an act. If a person could put on an act to this extent, it could really be said to be flawless. In terms of controlling one's emotions, they were basically invincible in the world. Xiao Mu shook her head. She instinctively felt that she might have really wronged Muqingya. The tenderness in Muqingya's eyes towards her mother didn't seem to be fake. And this trace of gentleness made Arbor feel that something was wrong. This gentleness seemed a little perverted. Could it be that she was hallucinating? She took a closer look at Muqingya, and when she saw that Muqingya's expression had changed, she turned her head and smiled lovingly at her. Xiao, try to trust me, okay? I won't hurt you. I will definitely protect you on behalf of your mother. Arbor's expression was extremely complicated. He looked at her for a long time before he said through gritted teeth, Don't you hate me? Because of my return, your biological daughter went mad with jealousy. In the end, the Mu family crippled her cultivation, broke her arms, and chased her out of the main family. Her life was ruined because of me. Arbor looked at her coldly, carefully observing the strength of every muscle on her face. Although I don't think I've harmed her, she only has herself to blame for everything that happened because of her paranoia. Arbor said coldly, But no matter what, your cold-blooded husband did harm Mu Rochuan because he wanted to please me. Chapter 36-33. Don't you hate me? Arbor asked. Muqingya shook her head and said calmly, Jojo, the paths we take in life may seem different, but they all lead to the same destination. Humans, if they walk the wrong path, they will walk the wrong path. They must pay for their mistakes and pay the price they deserve. Rochuan was jealous and couldn't control herself. In the end, she hurt herself. How could she blame you? She can't blame anyone. Muqingya raised her head and looked at Arbor seriously. Jojo, how can I hate you? The love I have for you is unadulterated. You'll understand in the future. Arbor stared at Muqingya intently, not missing a single inch of her expression. At this time, the team captain, who had led numerous purple forest guards to search the inside and outside of the estate, arrived in front of Xiao Mu and shook his head at her in defeat. Nothing. Arbor looked down and closed his eyes. Crown Princess. A young man in black rushed in and whispered to Arbor. Let's go. Arbor looked at Muqingya deeply and led the purple forest guards out of the Gilded Garden without saying anything. Madam. Song Lu held Muqingya's arm in fright. On the other hand, Muqingya was indifferent as she lightly patted her twice. Her eyes warmly gazed at Xiao Mu's departing figure for a long time. The red and green finger marks on his neck were especially glaring under the setting sun. After leaving the garden, Arbor ordered, "Let's go to Chasing Wind Garden." Everyone went to Chasing Wind Garden. As soon as they entered, they saw Elder Qing tied up and thrown to the ground. Xiao Mu's pitch-black eyes narrowed slightly as she gazed at this person with a cold glint. "I didn't expect you to be one of Tianyin's pawns in the Mu family. How is it? Do you have anything to say to me?" A purple forest guard hurried forward and whispered, "Crown Princess, this subordinate used a dictum talisman on this person." But Arbor looked at Elder Qing carefully and saw the old man tilting his head and smiling foolishly. Arbor took a few steps forward and grabbed Elder Qing's head. He probed it with his divine sense and then pushed the old man's head away with a frosty expression. "Idiot!" After being hit by the dictum talisman, not only did Elder Qing not speak a single word, but he also became an idiot. What did this mean? This meant that the old man's body had been cursed for a long time. This talisman was normally perfectly fine, but once Elder Qing's consciousness was invaded by an external force, it would backfire and turn Elder Qing into an idiot. Even a soul search wouldn't yield any useful information. "Be careful." A roar suddenly came from behind. When Xiao Mu turned her head to look, she saw Elder Qing's body swelling before exploding abruptly. Two of the Violet Forest guards rushed forward to protect her, but they were both sent flying by the shockwave. Xiao Mu quickly strode forward and poked the two people several times, her eyes abruptly turning chilly. Tianyin was indeed interesting. Xiao Mu had to admit that she had been utterly defeated in this exchange. "Crown Princess, Crown Princess." Aunt Jing, who had hurried over, was startled when she saw Arbor. She quickly bowed. "Crown Princess, His Majesty urgently summons you to the palace." Chapter 36-34. Xiao Mu sat inside the carriage that was heading towards Changle Boulevard with an indifferent expression. Saishio poured her a cup of tea and called out cautiously, "Crown Princess." Arbor took the teacup subconsciously. Her fingers gently stroked the patterns on the rim of the cup as she looked coldly at the passers-by outside the window. She lost. Actually, she had already lured the snake out of its hole from the moment she ordered Ao Yi to look for the so-called evidence in Shi Huixin's courtyard. She had deliberately led everyone to think that the jade talisman she gave them only recorded half of the conversation. "Stay up late?" And Mu Xingqian reacted quickly. The two of them immediately followed her words and led everyone to think that Shi Huixin had left evidence behind. After that, she deliberately ordered Ao Yi to search Shi Huixin's courtyard and found the so-called letter. This evidence was naturally prepared by Ao Yi himself. Therefore, as long as the person hiding in the dark had any suspicions, they would definitely come to check the evidence pointing to Chasing Wind Garden. The person Arbor wanted to lure out was First Madame Mu Qingya. She didn't believe this woman from the beginning. Arbor left people to go to Chasing Wind Garden to catch the person who dared to come to the courtyard to snoop. On the other hand, she directly brought people to First Madame's Gilded Garden and ordered them to search the entire place. What did she want to find? Naturally, she wanted to find out if there was a hidden talisman array in Mu Qingya's courtyard that could spy on the Mu family. As soon as Arbor stepped into the Mu family, she felt as if she was being watched and felt uncomfortable all over. In the end, her people didn't find any array in Gilded Garden. She even inadvertently saved Mu Qingya's life. Elder Qing, who was caught on the other side, was useless and even self-destructed to injure her people. It could be said that this confrontation with the All-Seer Alliance ended with Sir Jojo's defeat. Not only was Shi Huixin's lead broken, but they might have also alerted the enemy. Once Elder Qing of the All-Seer Alliance self-destructed, this matter would be over. Arbor raised his hand and pressed his aching forehead. He muttered to himself, could it be that the direction was completely wrong from the beginning? "Crown Princess," Kaishio softly called her. Arbor nodded and got down from the carriage. He raised his head and looked at the Extreme Time Hall's palace gate. At this moment, another carriage came over from not far away. Following the carriage was actually King Giant Pain and his son, whom he had not seen for a long time. Crown Princess. When the old king of Giant Pain saw the young lady from afar, his face involuntarily twitched. Fuck, I don't know if it's because I'm traumatized. Every time I see this little crown princess, I feel uneasy, as if something important is going to happen. Arbor glanced at him coldly, then turned and walked up the steps of Polaris Hall. A manservant dressed in green beside the carriage frowned slightly and muttered in displeasure. He actually didn't pay his respects to the Grand Tutor. This crown princess is no different from His Highness the Crown Prince. She's so arrogant and rude. Seeing this, King Giant Pain's heir hurriedly whispered, "Don't say any more. Is this manservant stupid?" Now, even he hurriedly took a detour when he saw the crown princess. How would he dare to provoke this savage girl again? Dressed in a white robe, the Grand Tutor slowly walked down from the carriage with his black hair hanging loosely at his waist. A pair of eyes brimming with wisdom gazed at Xiaomu. Chapter 36-35. Crown Princess, His Majesty invites you to the royal study. When Arbor reached the last step, a palace servant who had been waiting for her stepped forward and led her to the royal study. Arbor glanced at him expressionlessly and didn't say a word. The little eunuch glanced at her curiously. He felt that although the little crown princess was young, she was extremely calm and had an intimidating aura. In the past, those lords who came for an audience would more or less ask them a few questions. However, this crown princess didn't say a word from beginning to end. What the little eunuch didn't know was that those people who came in the past were afraid of the great emperor and felt uneasy. That was why they tried every possible means to find out from the eunuchs what the great emperor was feeling and why he summoned them. However, the little crown princess was different. From the bottom of her heart, she had never feared the great emperor. Naturally, she wouldn't consider how he was feeling or how she should curry favor with him. In her opinion, there was no such thing as the great emperor of the divine prefecture. He was Mo Yin's father. If he could talk to him, he would talk to him. If he couldn't, Sir Jojo couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. Following the garden path, they went all the way to the west and entered a winding corridor. Soon, they arrived at the door of the royal study. The little eunuch quickly went in to report. Arbor looked back and saw the Grand Tutor, whose face was filled with gentle light, as if he was shrouded in holy light, walking over with the king of Giant Pain and his son. Before he could greet them at the door, the little crown princess had turned and left. Now that they met again, the heir of the king of Giant Pain, Mo Kun, hurriedly took a few steps forward and cupped his hands respectfully. Little sister-in-law, the king of Giant Pain's mouth twitched. He really wanted to slap this lackey to death. How is this guy like the old king of Giant Pain's majesty? Now, he looked like a lackey. Look at how much he fawned over this little crown princess. Arbor glanced at the crown prince of Giant Pain and nodded expressionlessly. You're also here to see his majesty? Ah, yes, it was his majesty who summoned us. Crown princess, Lord State Preceptor, King Giant Pain, and Crown Prince, please come in. Following the eunuch's shout, Arbor stepped into the study first. Only then did he realize that there were many people in His Majesty's imperial study. Prince Kong Mo Lufeng, Prince Zheng Mo Shikong, Prince Yong and Crown Prince Mo Su, who had just entered the capital, as well as several important ministers, were all sitting there. The king of Giant Pain and his son hurriedly went forward to greet the great emperor. Everyone in the study stood up in unison to greet the imperial preceptor and the king of Giant Pain. When they were all done, they turned around and saw the little crown princess standing there expressionlessly. She was like a little wooden stake, not moving at all. Everyone was at a loss for words. Right Prime Minister Galbaran coughed lightly. His Majesty summoned everyone today to discuss His Highness the Crown Prince's disappearance in Graping Village. I believe everyone should have heard a little about what happened in Graping Village. Everyone nodded and secretly observed the little crown princess's expression. Expressionless fuck, crown princess. Is it really all right for you to be like this? Right now, everyone is talking about your husband's life. Even if you don't cry, You should at least express a trace of concern. Imperial father. The little crown princess suddenly interrupted everyone's discussion coldly. She took a step forward and placed a memorial on His Majesty's desk. I want to impeach the Crown Prince of Yong and Immerse. Chapter 3636. The Crown Prince of Eternal Peace, Immerse, almost shed tears. He didn't expect that the little crown princess would really accuse him in front of the emperor. When he saw the little crown princess step into the imperial study, he felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't expect that this little crown princess would really accuse him in front of so many adults. Whoa, he already called her sister-in-law and admitted his mistake in front of her. Why did she still want to mess with him like this? The emperor stared blankly for a moment, then reached out to take the booklet she handed over. After looking at it carefully, he glanced at her again. Crown Princess. Immerse was at the Mu family's mountain gate with a group of repulsive, hedonistic sons, wantonly shooting the citizens of the divine continent. He should be severely punished as a warning to others. The Crown Prince of Eternal Peace hurriedly stepped forward and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, Immerse didn't do it on purpose. At that time, he was only deceived by others and didn't join in the activity of shooting the beggars. This crown princess saw it with her own eyes. Could it be false? Arbor turned his head and coldly swept a glance at the Crown Prince of Eternal Peace. The Crown Prince of Eternal Peace is not strict in teaching his son. Shouldn't you be brave enough to bear this mistake and set yourself as an example? Crown Princess, don't you? If the Crown Prince was present that day, he would definitely personally whip the Crown Prince of Eternal Peace 30 times. He would help the Crown Prince of Eternal Peace reprimand the prince. Crown Princess, if this Crown Princess had a brother like this, she would definitely teach him a lesson personally and would definitely not let others do it. There should be a limit to how mischievous you can be. You can't even guard your own bottom line as a person. You're simply unworthy of being a human. The Crown Prince of Eternal Peace's old face flushed red, stuttering out the word you, unable to say anything else. Everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly, each of them looking down and sighing in their hearts. Of all the people you could provoke, you had to provoke that little malefic Crown Princess. Listening to the little Crown Princess's words, it seemed that the Crown Prince of Eternal Peace was playing around with a group of hedonistic sons shooting the beggars at the Mu family's mountain gate, and they were caught by the Crown Princess. Presumably, these people wouldn't have a good ending when the Prince of Eternal Peace saw his father's face turn red. He hurriedly knelt down and lowered his head as he cried out pitifully, Imperial Uncle, Sewer knows his mistake. Mo Yoshing's eyes flickered as he praised his nephew's wit in his heart. He hurriedly went with the flow and said, The Eternal Peace Duke's heir is frivolous and unrestrained, disregarding human life. Seeing that you are young and have the intention to repent, give him 15 lashes as punishment. This child was indeed quick-witted. If he stubbornly refused to admit his mistake, what awaited him would be the little Crown Princess' relentless pursuit. If he didn't admit his mistake now, he would definitely regret it later. The great emperor admitted that he hadn't spent much time with his daughter-in-law, but for some reason, he felt that he understood her temperament quite well. Most of the time, the young lady only wanted you to admit your mistake and accept punishment. Then, the matter would be over. If you stubbornly refused to admit your mistake after doing something wrong, and even tried to quibble or resist, the young lady would definitely let you know how helpless your future life would be. After Immerse was dragged out to be whipped, the young lady indeed stopped talking. The great emperor glanced at the young lady, his expression turning serious as he said, Crown Princess, we have lost contact with the Crown Prince in Grey Plain Village. We don't know how he is doing. There are only 10 days left until your wedding day. Shouldn't this wedding be postponed for a few days? Among the ministers present, some nodded, some remained silent. State Preceptor, what do you think? Chapter 3637. Delaying the wedding date is indeed the safest way. The state preceptor nodded calmly. Seeing Arbor suddenly turn a glare at him, the state preceptor even smiled at Arbor in a very good-natured manner. Xiao Mu couldn't help but have a strange feeling resurface in her heart when she saw that gentle expert's appearance. From the time they met until now, she had only met this state preceptor a few times. But every time they met, this state preceptor seemed to be speaking in a very gentle tone about Sir Jojo, but every time he would push things in a bad direction. For example, this time, what right did he have to delay Jojo and Lian's wedding just because he said one sentence? No. Arbor rudely interrupted the Lord's words and said coldly, "Don't postpone it. They had agreed on the 6th of June, such a good wedding date. How could they postpone it just like that?" Jojo did not agree. The Emperor subconsciously twitched his mouth and glanced at his daughter-in-law, who had a serious expression on her face. "Cough, Crown Princess. The people we sent to Graping Village all said that there was no news of the Crown Prince for the time being." "So what?" Arbor glanced at the Emperor expressionlessly. "The Crown Prince will be fine. He will definitely return on time," Arbor said resolutely. "The wedding date cannot be postponed. It will be held on the 6th of June, as usual." The state preceptor turned to look at her and sighed. "If His Highness the Crown Prince does not return on time on the 6th of June, then the wedding ceremony will be a joke." Arbor's almond eyes narrowed, a murderous glint overflowing. "I already said that he will return. What nonsense are you spouting? You're so long-winded and annoying." Everyone, the Duke of Eternal Peace looked at the little crown princess, then glanced at the Emperor and the state preceptor's expressions. He suddenly felt much better. The little crown princess even dared to confront the state preceptor directly, let alone his son, Mo Su. In front of the state preceptor, his son Mo Su was nothing. With this thought in mind, the indescribable emotions in his heart calmed down quite a bit. The national master sighed. Like an elder full of holy light, he looked at his mischievous junior and said calmly, "It's not that I want to stop you two from getting married. It's just that if His Highness the Crown Prince doesn't return on the day of the wedding, this wedding will become a joke in the eyes of the people of the Divine Land. Crown Princess, the Imperial Tutor is thinking for you." Chen Chaoji smiled and couldn't help but interject. Arbor looked at him coldly. "No. Change. Release. 2. Do you not understand human language?" Arbor interrupted Chen Chaoji, who was about to open his mouth. "Since when do you have the right to interfere in the affairs of the Crown Princess? You're too long-winded. The wedding will proceed as scheduled." Her gaze coldly swept over everyone present. "Don't try to play any tricks or play any tricks. None of you can bear the consequences of disappointing Jojo's lotus." The little girl's face was red with anger. She turned around and walked out of the imperial study. She did not pay attention to anyone else. A bunch of liars. They said they were going to get married on the 6th of June, but they wanted to secretly add fuel to the fire. They wanted to mess with Sir Jojo. Go to hell. Everyone couldn't help but look at each other, then turned to look at the Emperor, who was sitting in the middle of the study. The Emperor raised a hand to massage his throbbing forehead, then said helplessly, "Since the Crown Princess doesn't think there's a problem, then let's proceed as planned." Chen Chaoji opened his mouth, then closed it angrily. Chapter 36-38. This Crown Prince Consort simply didn't know what was good for her. Clearly, everyone was thinking for her. It was fine if she didn't appreciate their kindness, but she actually scolded everyone and said that they were meddlesome. How preposterous! Chen Chaoji turned to look in the direction of the Grand Tutor. The Grand Tutor still had a faint smile on his face, as if he did not care about Arbor's rude treatment just now. Malian section break. Dong 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 dong. After a few sounds, countless rocks rolled down from the stone wall. It was only after the nearby cave stopped shaking that Mo Lien came out from behind Golem 2 and Golem 3. He carefully examined this cave wall that had been buried by shattered rocks. After days of investigation, he narrowed down the distance and range inch by inch and finally determined that this was the location of the formation board. However, after the mechanical puppets dug many times, The nearby mountain walls were unstable and would collapse from time to time. Yin was used to it. Along the way, he only let little 7 out occasionally to chat with him. The rest of the time, he was studying how to destroy the formation board. It was quite strange. This Earth Spirit formation could be said to have been set up with great effort. Without a heaven-level talisman master, it was impossible to set up such a large formation. However, when he fought with the gray figure in the formation board from a distance, he could feel that this person was definitely not a heaven-level talisman master. Since he could kill that person's physical body with just a streak of sword intent, it was obvious that he was not very powerful. Therefore, this disc array really gave people a strange feeling. Little 7. 7th Yan's figure appeared next to Yin, and he turned to give him an inquiring look. Yin nodded slightly at him. Yanqi immediately understood. His outstretched fist instantly turned into a dragon claw and clawed at the ground. After a chi sound, the extremely sharp claw cut a crack in the ground. Looking into the crack, the two of them faintly saw a circle of white jade talismans that shone faintly. Yanqi tore the crack wider with his claws. The two of them looked down and saw dozens of jade talismans floating in a circle. Yanqi removed some of the gravel from the side of the crack and pointed downwards. "Master, shall I go down and take a look?" Yin shook her head. "I'll go." Without waiting for Yanqi's protest, he leaped into the crack in the ground in a flash. But before he could get close to the jade glyph array, the glyph array suddenly burst out with a strong light, rushing straight at his face. Yin was already prepared, and at this time, she also set up a defensive barrier on her body. Naturally, this strong light was isolated by him. The Black Moon sword in his hand shook slightly, and in the next moment, it struck the periphery of the jade charm array, scraping off clusters of white fragments. There was a powerful defensive array glyphs on the disc array, which was why Yin was unable to break it open. Her wrist was even hit by a rebounding force. His eyes narrowed slightly. Just as he was about to continue, a green vine suddenly drilled out of his sleeve and excitedly drilled into the array glyphs on the ground. However, the array glyphs would attack all intruders indiscriminately. It directly created a barrier, and with a bang, the green vine was repelled. A section of the green vine twisted and drilled into the ground again. The other half of the vine curled up and threw out a shiny stone with a whoosh. Yin reached out to catch it. After taking a closer look, her slender eyebrows raised slightly. A holy stone. There was a holy meridian under the array glyphs. Chapter 36-39. Yin's heart skipped a beat, and she jumped into the crack. The Raven Moon sword in her hand slashed at the defensive wall a few times, but it did not budge at all. What a strong defensive wall, Yin thought. There were not many defensive walls in this world that could withstand her full-force attack. One person, one dragon, and one green vine struggled in the pit for a long time. The sky was about to brighten, but the array formation did not budge at all. The three of them could not help but feel a little discouraged, especially that half of the little tree's vine. It drooped listlessly and hung on Yin's arm, pretending to be dead. Yin could not help but find it funny. This thing was just a branch of the little tree. Chio. It was too intelligent. "Master, the person who set up this array formation is very powerful." 7th Yin blinked and could not help but say, "When I saw that fellow's body was destroyed by Master Sword, I thought he was not that powerful. I did not expect that person's cultivation level to be so weak, but his array formation is so powerful." "You think this is that fellow's array formation?" Yin curled her lips and glanced at 7th Yin. 7th Yin was stunned and immediately shouted, "Isn't it?" "It isn't." Yin shook her head and pointed at the dozens of jade talismans below. Looking at the quality of these jade talismans, they must have been buried here for at least 20 to 30 years. This array formation was left behind by a heaven-level great talisman master, Yin said calmly. "That fellow, All-Seer, just got lucky and accidentally saw this array formation. He made some slight changes to the original array formation and formed an Earth Spear array on the outer layer and a very strong defensive array formation on the inner layer. So this array formation was not set up by that fellow. All-Seer? 7th Yin asked in surprise. Mo Yin nodded with certainty. If he had this kind of array formation skills, he would not have been killed by me so easily from the start. Then who left this array formation? This array must be used to protect the sacred bloodline underneath. Mo Yin sighed. If Jojo were here, he would be able to break it. It wasn't that brute force was impossible, but it would take too much time and effort. He had to get out as soon as possible. As for these worldly possessions, I'll send someone to try again later. After making up her mind, Mo Yin didn't waste any more time. She immediately asked Little Seven to destroy the outer layer of the formation. This array disc was suspended above the dozens of jade talismans, and it had already been slightly shattered. Little Seven threw a punch over, and it didn't take much effort to break the disc array apart. Subsequently, Mo Yin hugged the green vine and leaped onto the crevice with Little Seven. His feet suddenly trembled, and the rocks on a mountain wall seemed to be summoned by something, rolling down one by one. Very quickly, the crack created by Little Seven's claw was completely blocked. After the Earth's spiritual array was completely destroyed, the suction force of the array disc naturally ceased to exist. Little Seven transformed into a dragon and soared into the sky, rushing out of the deep valley with Mo Yin on his back. Prince Mo stood on the dragon's back and gazed into the distance in the direction of the deep valley. His gaze was fixated on the sacred bloodline buried under countless huge rocks, and he pursed his lips without speaking for a long time. At the same time, inside Sangzhou's Taiji Palace, the sound of hurried footsteps caused Duan Yu, who was meditating and cultivating, to crease his brows and slowly open his eyes. He saw a junior eunuch jogging and hurriedly and repeatedly shouting, "Your Highness, Her Highness the noble consort has returned. Her Highness the noble consort is injured." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.